Any members online? None? Let's proceed to the official side.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning, honorable members. My name is Busiso Ntlangoti. I'm the Acting Regional Executive Manager of SASSA Western Cape. Thank you. Oh, sorry, we are having other officials who are joining us from head office. I believe they're already online.
Sure. Can we just then deal with the SASSA delegation in chambers and then go to the SASSA delegation online? Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. Good morning, colleagues. My name is Nondomiso Sikonyela. I'm the Acting Senior Manager Operations, Western Cape SASSA.
Thank you.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, members. My name is Brenton van Friede. I'm the Executive Manager for Grant Operations at Head Office.
Good morning, Chair and members. My name is Clive Janssen. I'm Manager Executive Support in the Office of Mr. Chlongoti.
Thank you very much. Is that all SASSA officials?
Good morning, Chair and members. My name is Sonobo Koliti, SASSA Head Office.
Good morning, members. My name is Ndevu Zolile from SASSA Communication.
Good morning, members. My name is Ananias Hari. I'm Acting General Manager, Grants with Western Cape.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. My name is Shivani Wahab. I'm the Senior Manager for Communications and Marketing at SASSA Western Cape.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. My name is Nzietsu Sisiu, and I am the Acting Corporate Services General Manager. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and members. My name is Annalise Bester, and I'm the General Manager of Finance.
Thank you very much. I do believe that we have a few more guests. In the meantime, while the procedural officer directs them to their seats, I will ask the Honorable Mbombo.
Good morning. I'm French Mbombo. I'm an alternate for a member, Van Minen.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mbombo. Thank you very much. If we're sure that everyone is seated in front of a mic, you are most welcome to take the seats this side as well. Deputy Minister, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us. We are very much privileged. You may introduce yourself, Deputy Minister. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. My name is Mondle Kumubele, Deputy Minister, Communication and Digital Technology. I got advice that you have asked the Postbank team to come and do presentation here. The Parliament starts at 10. I thought that first hour, 9 to 10 or quarter to 10, I would want to be here with them so that I give a sense of the seriousness that I attach to the someone.
Sure. Sure, absolutely, Deputy Minister.
So this is a team. You will do introduction. Should we do introduction now?
Yes, we can deal with the introductions, and then I just need to ask the indulgence of the committee as well. Members, are you happy that we then start with Postbank, or rather first afford the Deputy Minister some opening remarks and then allow Postbank's presentation? Is that in order with the committee? Thank you, members. Then you're most welcome to introduce yourself. Thank you.
To the members, I'm Yureka Singh. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Postbank.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ruan Deokran. I'm the GM for Channels at Postbank. I'm also the Provincial Lead for the Western Cape and Northern Cape for the card replacement project.
Bongani Diako, I head up the communications at Postbank.
Good morning, members. My name is Tamsan Natele. I am the Chief Commercial Officer for the Post Bank. I also lead the Mpumalanga region as part of the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then just leading us into this meeting, over the recent months, honorable members and guests, the committee has witnessed with concern and desperation and uncertainty, of course, from community members who are SASSA beneficiaries, standing in long queues with no clarity and trying to meet the deadline for the migration of the SASSA gold cards to Postbank black cards. In addition, the committee members have been bombarded by calls, obviously being the Committee on Social Development, seeking clarity and for help and assistance on this matter because people were fearful on the looming deadline, which has the potential of leaving hundreds of SASSA beneficiaries with no source of income if they have not successfully changed their SASSA gold cards to Postbank cards. Unfortunately, the committee members did not have all the answers that we were confronted with regards to the migration challenge. And the committee then resolved to schedule this briefing with SASSA and Postbank this morning. And first of all, for SASSA to come and brief the committee on the migration process from the SASSA gold cards to Postbank black cards, specifically on the progress made of this migration process, specifically to the Western Cape. Also, SASSA's roles and responsibilities in the migration process, as well as details of the verification system and the latest update on the social relief of distress in the province. In addition, the committee has also extended the invitation to Postbank to come and brief the committee on the migration process from SASSA gold cards to Postbank black cards, especially on the initial mandate of Postbank, detailed improvements made since its inception, and any remedial measures implemented to enhance the Postbank and deliver the SASSA grants to the beneficiaries of the Western Cape. So both SASSA and Postbank have confirmed their attendance. And once again, thank you for being here this morning. Thank you also to the Honourable Minister. Honourable members and guests, to save time, as I said, members have agreed we're going to allow Deputy Minister to give opening remarks and input into why we are here this morning, and then I will allow the briefing from Postbank, and then we can directly go over to questions and answers, and then allow SASSA for their briefing and questions and answers. Honourable Minister, thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. Thanks for the opportunity. Maybe upfront, I want to explain that the minister is not in the country. Minister Mulatsi is in Barcelona, the annual ICT conference, right? But besides, I'm allocated to deal with the Postbank as a deputy minister. Thank you for this opportunity, Honourable Chair, honourable members, that we have to interface with yourselves at this level regarding the replacement of the gold cards. Maybe it will be useful, Honourable Chair, just to give a quick background. Postbank, as you all know, has been going through a lot of challenges. At some stage, it had about 3 years disclaimer, and probably for 9 years, vacant post of executives not being filled, and all the implications with regard to that. You would agree with me, Honourable Chair, that an institution of this nature, with a responsibility as a repository of finances of clients, this is not the state you would want to see it. That there being a policy of government, that the state bank should be helped to reach a state where it qualifies as a state bank at a particular given time. It meant that for it to get there, the kind of issues I've just raised now had to be resolved. Of course, in intervening, because AG and KPMG would have actually investigated the situation in the Postbank, which led to discovery of fake accounts that costed millions that were actually leaked in the system, and a number of other corrupt issues and fraudulent contracts and so on, which were discovered by KPMG. We, against that background, appointed a new CEO, I think around July, September 2023, who, in our view, Honorable Chair, made what I would refer, if you are not inside Postbank, it would not make sense. But if you're inside, you will know that it's a miracle intervention. Because what they have done, all the posts that were vacant for 9 years, within a year, they are all now filled. And secondly, that from being on a disclaimer for 3 years, now it's unqualified, which means it has recovered towards unqualification. The other critical issue is that it had a challenge of systems that could not produce a card that could be certified in the international payment system. Now we reached a stage where that has actually been resolved. Thus now, this black card that people must receive, because this gold card is a card that has always been having some shaky quality and so on. Maybe it's correct to say, Chair, the Postbank, against the background I've already spoken about, was put on a variation notice. One is always asked what's a variation notice. Different financial institutions are designated to deliver particular financial services under the supervision and monitoring of the Reserve Bank. If you are found to be wanting in one aspect of that, you get put on a variation notice. In other words, you get limited to the number of services that you deliver until you have corrected the defects. So one of the defects was the main defect was the very card I've spoken about. So where are we now? For the Postbank to be recognized by Reserve Bank as a fully fledged bank, they had to get out of this variation notice. The only outstanding thing, Honorable Chair, is that once the black card passed the test of the international payment system, which meant globally it's a card that can be used anywhere, which gold card could not do. It meant that the clients of Postbank must get, especially the beneficiaries, must get the black card. And for it to be recognized as a compliant bank, it meant that the gold card must be out of the system of the protocol of the international payment system. As the gold card that they are using now, by end of March, it must be out of the system. Now, why are we confronted with what the Honorable Chair has spoken about now? We are trying to move at a pace where all the beneficiaries get the black card, God helping us by the end of March, which has become clearly impossible in our view. But we are doing our best so that by the end of March, a number of them would have got the black card. It's clear to us that process is going to go beyond March, end of March. Now, the biggest fear, Honorable Chair, so all of you will remember, 2023, 5th and 6th of September, there was a glitch which happened in the system because of the contract and a number of things that were occurring, which has been cleared. If you remember, that glitch only occurred during those days. It never happened again. So the fear now, during that glitch, a lot of people were not able to access and get their money. The biggest fear is that end of March, what will happen to the beneficiaries? The team is going to give the details, but the point I want to make is that a lot of work has been done with regard to what is going to happen after the end of March. That between end of March and June, where we hope this swapping will be finished, all gold cards must be out of the system by end of March. It means that those who have not received the black card will still be having a gold card, which will not be working after the end of protocol of March. But alternatives have been done. They will explain them better, the technical people, that between end of March and June, the people who still have gold card they cannot use, they will still access their the institution to get their money. using a cardless system, but they will explain it to you. So, but I thought it was important, Honorable Chair, to know that whilst we are confronted with these difficulties, in the past 1 year plus couple of months, the Post Bank has been going through turnaround. And this crisis is not a crisis of a bank, of an institution that is going down. It's a crisis of an institution that is trying to resolve its own issues. But however, we will be open to whatever questions that members are going to raise, and we will have to account where we are required to account. And again, I must say, Honorable Chair, I'm very grateful that we have been given this opportunity. We are working with SASSA very closely in as far as this issue is concerned. One of the problems that we have confronted it as we are trying to swap the card is the Home Affairs, what to call, system, which does not stay up throughout the what to call the day. When the system is working, people take an average of 3 to 4 to 5 minutes to swap their cards. But when it is not working, it means they have to wait until. What is that? Why is that system important? People who come to exchange cards must be verified that it's the owner of the what to call of the card, taking into account all the fraudulent issues that we went through in 2023 and 2022. That system is the only one that must do that, what to call that, authentication. There is no other system. And that system is actually having its own teething problems. We're working with the Home Affairs with the hope to improve. So our team, they try in a number of times to do their work. But what upfront I must accept on behalf of the team, we also have accepted that the project that we're carrying in could have been done better. We're learning a lot amongst the gaps, our own gaps, with regard to how different this work could have been done. Having said that, COO, can you lead the team in doing the details?
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister. We will be excusing you, Honorable Deputy Minister, in a few minutes, I believe. I'm just going to determine whether there's any questions for you directly before we proceed with the officials. Honorable members, any questions at this stage? Not? I don't see any hands. Honorable Deputy Minister, perhaps just from my side, thank you for the introduction this morning. Thank you for also being frank on the various challenges that Postbank is experiencing. And obviously one can see that you work towards remedial action when it comes to these challenges. My one question would be, you talk about the end of March. The date imprinted in every beneficiary's mind in this country is the 20th of March. The 20th of March, the deadline. So in the next few weeks, coming up to the 20th of March, can Postbank give the reassurance to the beneficiaries in the Western Cape that the transition of the SASSA Gold Card would indeed be finalized? If not, what contingency measures are in place? That is the one question. The second question would be, in terms of the current status of migration, is there indeed an indication to Postbank that people prefer to transition to Postbank or to other reputable banking institutions? Is that something that can be picked up at this stage? Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Well, the second element, I'll ask the CEO at the right time to respond to it, if you don't mind. That detail of what are the findings of the stats and surveys and so on. On the contingency measure, it's what which I try to explain that the deadline of the 20 is the one we are asking people that by the 20 they must have done this. But it's important to say it up front that by the end of March, as a matter of fact, is that all those cards are going to be out of the protocol of the system. But the team will explain what are the contingency measures. I've already said they will access their account cardlessly in the manner the SRD is doing. A lot of work is done in that. They will give the update in that regard. Maybe one of the things I want to try to reassure Honorable Chair is that the significant number of the beneficiaries that are in the Post Bank the beneficiaries. Significant number of them are people of a younger, what to call, of a younger age, who in our view are literate enough to make use of the cardless, what to call, of the cardless system. All what we think we need to do is to intensify awareness with regard what people must do after the end of what to call of March. In other words, there's a contingency measure, cardless what to call access, also post office. The CEO will also explain that those who could actually reach the post office, there's a way in which they will get their money. Those who are close to any whatever to the financial institutions will actually use the cardless method. That's the contingency what to call measure. But if you don't mind, Honorable Chair, they can even explain it better as technical people.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I think we will get into the flesh and ultimately get to the meat of it. Perhaps just my last question to you, in terms of communication, that was also one of the issues raised by our communities, conflicting or I don't want to say misleading, but conflicting communication in terms of sites identified, for example. Exactly what you have stressed now. In the next few weeks, or by when earliest will that communication that you have just shared with us be shared with the rest of the country as well?
I think Bongani is here, will give you an update. It deals with communication. Even myself, I've spoken to them that they need to up the ante there. It's my view is that it is not at a maximum level where it's supposed to do. Now going on, it has intensified, but Bongani will actually explain to you because he's the one running the communications. Yeah.
Thank you. I saw Member Kamfer and Member Kasim in that order.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Deputy Minister, Chair, through you. My question is, Chair, I see the presentation and I read to the presentation, but my question is normally the officials will answer. If you ask the officials, the officials will say that it's not the call, but the officials will make. In this states, I come from the area that I know. I see there is Post Bank, but close, specific in the West Coast area. So what will the department do in this situation? For example, I can mention in the case in Citrusdal in the West Coast. In Citrusdal was a Post Bank. This Post Bank is closed. The nearest one is Clem William. In this town have 46 farms. That means people must travel 146 kilos, 146 plaatsen. Hulle moet travel from 18 kilos from the farms to Citrusdal and 15 kilos from Citrusdal to Clem William to the nearest post office. That is the situation that our people in the rural areas face. So my question is, what will the department do, Minister, in this situation? Because you will leave and your officials will say that is not a call. What I can make is the official. So that is my question. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Kamfer. Member Kasim.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I just have two questions. My first one is with regards to the swap of the cards from the SASSA gold cards to the black cards. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
No problem. My first question is with regards to the swap of the SASSA gold cards to the black Postnet cards. I just wanted to check, does this only affect the elderly who has been using the SASSA gold cards, or does it affect all? And then also, Chairperson, I wanted to also check in terms of making things easier, especially for our elderly. Is there any reason why you haven't opted to do things online instead of having elderly people wait in a long line and fainting in queues across the province? So, for example, having the process done online and elderly and other beneficiaries get the SMS to say when they must collect it and where. And then also you spoke about fraudulent activity. I just wanted to check how many current cases of fraudulent activity are you currently sitting with and how many has been closed and resolved? Thank you.
Thank you, Member Kasim. I see no any further hands. Honorable Minister.
Maybe let me start with the Honorable Member. With regard to who is affected, Post Bank has got about, out of, is it 18 million? We got about how much? 2 point something or 3 million? Yes. Out of the 18 million, we've got about those who bank with us is about 3 million. This affects all those who bank with us, irrespective of what to call of the age. And then you spoke about online. I'm sure technical people are better placed to answer that question. The third issue is that even the fraudulent issues, they will explain them, they will give you an update. We've cleared most of them. People have arrested, others are in court, and a lot of other things. We're working with Hawks in as far as that is concerned. To the honorable member on the West Cape?
West Coast.
The West Coast, on the borders on the Northern Cape.
Yes. I thought during the what are the answers? Answers and question in Afrikaans, vrije and antwoord. Am I correct?
Vraag en antwoord.
Vrije and antwoord. There will be that time and they will be able to deal with that. But what I want to clarify is that I suspect what you are speaking about is not the post bank, it's the post office. But I must also clarify this. Post bank has been moved away from post office in terms of the law. It's standing independently now. It used to be part of the Batuka of the post office. Most of the time, if I'm correct, SEO, post bank is online in terms of accessing your money and whatever. You go to the banks. How many post banks do we have as a physical structure? Do we have one? Yes. Yeah. But I suspect what you're speaking about is the post office. But they will clarify that. The question is that they must be able to explain in your area how many sites are there, especially in terms of the kilometers you've spoken about. I've been touring here. I went to Adelaide Street at some stage. Their clients, their beneficiaries who came from Hermanus, who came to sleep here in Adelaide. Those are some of the things they are dealing with. I would appeal, Honorable Chair, that then they are allowed to presentation, because a number of questions, the answers are contained in the what to call in the presentation, if you don't mind.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. And at this point, I am going to allow for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to provide the national view, and then I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Ruan, who is leading the Western Cape card replacement in particular, to take us through the particulars of the Western Cape. I will answer some of these questions.
Excuse me, ma'am. My apologies for interrupting you.
Sure.
I know we've done introductions ahead of time. I just saw there's some other people that joined us online. We've got members of the public also joining. If you can just reintroduce yourself and can you perhaps just speak up a bit, please, into the mic?
Sure, Madam Chair. I'm Eureka.
If we can just afford the members of the public to take their seats. Good morning and a warm welcome to you. I will allow you to please, for the record, introduce yourselves, please. You may switch on the mic, please. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nomaleti Kutra from Kukuletu. I'm a Health Forum member. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Christina Pika from Mama Africa, together with Christian Pika.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Namkita Martinez from Kukuletu Health Forum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see that.
Hi, everyone. My name is Noem Dai from Kukuletu Health Forum.
Thank you very much for joining. And then I just see a gentleman next to the lady with the purple as well. If you can please introduce yourself.
Good morning, Christian Pika from Mama Africa.
Thank you so much. You're more than welcome.
Good morning. I'm Leslie Sylvester from the Edefeld cluster. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you, Mr. Sylvester. That deals with everyone. Thank you very much. You may proceed, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning again, everyone. I'm Eureka Singh. I am the Chief Operations Officer for Postbank. I'm going to run through the first part of this presentation, providing really a national view. And then my colleague Ruan, sitting next to me, will delve into the Western Cape in particular. I will answer some of the questions that have already been raised as I run through the first few slides of the presentation. Okay, so just in terms of background, the DM mentioned the variation notice. I just wanted to start here because I think it is an important aspect of the background, and particularly in relation to the question, why can't we extend this process? So we are under variation notice from the South African Reserve Bank. There is no intent to extend this deadline, and that is not within our control. So the card replacement has to be completed by the 31st of March. We've set a deadline of 20th of March because we have to submit evidence to the South African Reserve Bank that the cards, the gold cards, are actually out of circulation by the 31st of March. So I just wanted to give that context. And just in terms of the plan, and we're often asked, how did we plan this thing? And Rowan will go into a lot more detail on the Western Cape in particular and how we planned. But what I wanted to reassure you about is that the planning was really done in terms of actual data that we received in terms of where our beneficiaries lie. Our principle was to go to the customers instead of bringing customers to us. And I'll talk a little bit about our roving teams when I speak about this going forward. And our communication approach was really multi-pronged. So community radio, loud hailing, multiple social media platforms, etc. And we staggered the distribution, obviously, to enable process optimization and to minimize our risk.
Sorry, Chairperson. Sorry.
Apologies, Member Kasim.
Chairperson, is it possible that we can get a copy of the presentation as well? I don't think it was given to us.
We had the
'Cause I'm struggling to
presentation.
make out what you're saying. Thank you.
Member Kasim, we had the presentation circulated to, not this one. Is there an updated version of this presentation?
This is the version.
Or are you improvising on the slides?
No, this is the version we sent through.
With
but I
emails?
noticed-
Yes, we have received it via email. You would have received two presentations, the SASSA presentation and the Postbank presentation. Any other member that were not furnished with a copy? Member Van Wyk?
Chair, the presentation that we are hearing now doesn't seem to be the one that we've received.
It's a different version.
It's a different version.
Okay, I've been following on the screen here in front of me. So there is an update on the presentation.
We sent through a full presentation, but I noticed only one part of it has been printed. The whole presentation hasn't been printed.
Just give it a few minutes, members. Let me just check with the procedural officer. On which page does your presentation conclude? It seems we have 9 pages.
I've got 18 pages and the printout is actually from page 12.
No, that is not the presentation that we received, according to our procedural officer.
Can you confirm? We're just confirming with our communications head. Sorry about that. We need to send this one. Apologies, Chair. There seems to be some confusion. Can we send this version?
Can we, for the sake of progress, the presentation received by members concludes with the details of the sites, detailed site view. That is where our presentation ends. Can we take it up till that page? And I will just ask that the procedural staff just copy the rest of the presentation for members so that when we get to that part, they will have it in front of them. Can it please be emailed to the procedural officer, the complete presentation?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. I'm just going to do that quickly. Details. May we proceed, Chair?
Chair will check in the meantime.
Sure.
Then we can proceed with what we have, and she will check and have it printed for members. Thank you.
Thank you. Then I will proceed. Okay, so our approach then was to partner with multiple retailers. We also considered partnering with SAPO, but that didn't go too far. One of the requirements for us to comply with the variation notice is for us to be PCI DSS compliant. PCI DSS is Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. So being a bank, we need to comply with that data security standard in order to issue cards, which means that cards have to be stored safely in a safe of a specific grade at night. We have to track these cards from the time we send them to a site. We need to track exactly how many cards are issued. And many SAPO branches did not really have the infrastructure that we required to keep the cards safe, which is why we opted for retailers. So at the start, we kicked off with Pick n Pay, Boxer, and ShopRite. Recently, we've signed an agreement with SPAR as well. So our initial plan required us to distribute from 236 distribution points nationally. For the Western Cape in particular, we had planned 27. Where we are today is that we have 20 distribution points in the Western Cape. 2 of these are roving teams. And the reason the roving teams are important is because we have the issue where we have small numbers of beneficiaries in areas that don't necessarily have easy access to a SAPO branch or to a retailer, which means that we need to actually get the roving team to venues in those areas rather than force beneficiaries to travel long distances to us. So that is the plan with roving teams. So some of the major challenges to the plan, obviously we needed to recruit people. We found that recruiting people specifically in the Western Cape proved a challenge. We received a lot of applications from the city of Cape Town, but not enough in the outlying areas. We had high turnover rates, the Western Cape being some of the highest turnover rates. And although we had initially received a list of 33,000 applications nationally, we really struggled to place staff that met the criteria for placement. Another challenge we experienced is we need to verify customers before we issue cards. You know, someone asked why aren't we doing this online? That there is a requirement for us to validate that we are actually issuing the card to a beneficiary that we can identify. And we do this through a biometric check. So when customers come to our sites, we biometrically confirm that they are who they say they are by running an online check to the Department of Home Affairs database. In some areas, due to network latency, we do experience problems where we cannot connect to DHA on time. We have mitigated this by allowing a second pair of eyes on the transaction, meaning that a second person can verify that the person's ID and individual match and can let the transaction go through. So where are we now? As of the 28th of Feb, we have issued cards to 31% of our base. In the Western Cape, 24% of individuals have swapped their cards. Yeah, so that's lagging a little bit behind the national average. And Rowan will explain how we will how we intend to close that gap. So nationally, some of the interventions we've put in place to close the gap, we've increased tellers at our various sites. So we started out with 2 tellers per site. We're now increasing that to 3 and 4 where retailers can accommodate us. We have signed a contract with the SPAR Group, and the reason the SPAR Group contract is a bit of a game changer for us is that SPAR is allowing us to use their resources to issue the cards, which means that the resourcing challenge falls away. We've increased the number of roving teams. Rowan will take you through the number of roving teams he is implementing in the Western Cape. But then the roving teams are really there to get, as I said, out to the outlying areas to reach the customers that cannot come to us. We've started to manage the queues. I think when we made the announcement that the deadline was 20th of March, but you'll recall we initially said end of Feb. We wanted to give ourselves a little bit of time to get it through the queues. We didn't anticipate how many people would show up. And then we started thinking of strategies to manage the queues, which is now, why you'll see on our USSD site, we have published the sites that are coming. And this is really to avoid a situation where people travel long distances to an existing site in the city. If they know that a site is going to be live in their area next week, they don't have to travel and they can wait for a site in their area then and avoid the cost and time it takes to travel to a current live site. And we're now starting to announce exactly those sites and the routes for the roving teams as we plan that. And the question's been asked, what happens after the 20th of March? So I want to start by assuring everyone that customers will still receive their grants after the 20th of March. And there are 2 mechanisms that we have enabled that will allow this. The first is through SAPO. And there are 61 SAPO branches in the Western Cape that are currently active. Customers who haven't yet swapped out their gold cards for black cards will be able to go to a SAPO branch and withdraw cash over the counter. The second and preferred method would be through a cardless transaction at a retailer. And this cardless transaction is not new. We currently pay SRD grants this way. Basically, it involves a beneficiary going to a retailer, presenting their ID document, receiving a one-time PIN on their phone, and then withdrawing their cash. And this is available at all major retailers and Spaza shops. So those 2 solutions will be active post 20th March. Obviously, first preference is to swap out as many cards as possible. And then we also increase capacity in our contact center. We'd heard complaints that people weren't getting through, so we've literally doubled our capacity, and we're still increasing capacity there. Most calls we receive are really around what is my closest site, so we've equipped the call center to be able to deal with that. And we have also had discussions with SASSA's call center and equipped them with a list of FAQs so that if the SASSA call center is contacted, they can equally answer these questions. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Rowan then, who will run through the Western Cape.
Okay, thanks so much. Okay.
Sorry, do we have another presenter online?
No, Rowan, who's sitting next to me, will now.
I'll be
Sure,
presenting.
thank you. Can we just ask that the online visitors or members or media please mute themselves? You may proceed, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. For the people who've just joined, I'll just introduce myself again. My name is Ruan Diokran. I'm the GM for channels at Postbank, and I'm also responsible for the card replacement project in the Western Cape and the Northern Cape. So I think Eureka's painted a good picture in terms of where we are nationally. I just want to now delve into the Western Cape. when we received the data from SASSA, the initial data from SASSA, there was an indication of where most of the beneficiaries sat. And when we looked at the data, we came up with 16 key areas where the beneficiaries were. And I think I've listed them on this slide. So we had 322,919 customers provided by SASSA. There were 16 towns where most of these beneficiaries sat. And we kind of looked at they cover the 6 districts. And we initially set up 27 distribution points. So we targeted 27 distribution points to try to issue the cards to these customers. Now, as my colleagues would have mentioned, we decoupled from the post office, I think, in late 2023. And that's when we lost, I think, our physical points of presence, where we could only then do cash in and cash out at the post office. So in this process, as part of this project, we've had to build up our points of presence again. And that journey started in 2 provinces, I think, in Q3 last year, and then extended out to the other provinces in Q4. So in October, late October, we actually went live with our first site in the Western Cape. And the target at that time was to get to 27 distribution points. But the challenges that we experienced specifically around the Western Cape was with job applicants. So we initially had 1,500, just over 1,500 applicants for the Western Cape with that initial first batch, because I think Eureka had positioned quite a large number in terms of the national average, but less than 2% were actually converted to staff. And this is because the job applicants didn't meet our criteria, so the bank criteria in terms of matric plus a tertiary qualification. Where offers were made, we had a very low acceptance rate in terms of the salary. People were not keen to take it on. And it obviously resulted in very few staff to allow us to build out to those 27 points of presence that we had initially targeted. So from the end of October through to November and December, we actually only ran with 6 sites in the Western Cape, scaling to 12 towards the end of December. And now we've gotten to just over 20 sites. And that was mainly because we were unable to resource effectively. Another challenge that we faced was robberies at sites and criminal syndicates. So it's not completely unique to the Western Cape, but it was, I would say, more intense in the Western Cape. So we had to shut down 2 sites, for example, because of robberies. We had a 3rd site recently where the consultants refused to go onto site after we had placed them because the site was constantly robbed. And we had quite a few incidents with syndicates, especially around late December, where the syndicates started targeting our sites. And this speaks to the point that Eureka made around, being a bank and compliance, and we having to move out of the post office into more secure environments, which were the retailers. So in terms of our mitigation plan, as I mentioned, we had 1,500 applicants. We only managed to place 2%. We needed to think out of the box to try and solve that problem. So we actually then advertised roles to former SAPO colleagues who had left SAPO, and to the National Youth Development Agency to try and bolster the number of applications that we had, to see that if we could get more people so that we could actually launch more sites. And we reduced the qualifying criteria from matric plus tertiary to matric plus tertiary to focus more on relevant candidate experience. So specifically with the SAPO candidates, we said to ourselves, when I say SAPO, South African Post Office, we said, okay, well, if they don't have matric plus a tertiary qualification, maybe if they have matric plus post-bank experience, because they had previously worked with our products and services, we could consider them. And we then recently signed an agreement with SPAR to further alleviate the challenges that we're facing. So with SPAR, the difference with SPAR as opposed to the other retailers is SPAR would man the kiosks. So they already have people at these kiosks that are providing banking services. We would just add our service offering on top of that to further alleviate the resourcing challenges that we had. So that is a recent development, and we are in the process now of starting our journey with SPAR. So further to the applications for SAPO and National Youth Development Agency, We signed SPA, and we are now also working with the MEC's Office of the Department of Social Development for the Western Cape to support our resourcing and execution plan. So we are constantly reviewing and looking for new avenues to try and help bolster the resourcing to allow us to increase our number of sites. Just to give you an indication of a Western Cape overview from a map perspective, I mean, I think all of you are well aware there's 6 districts in the Western Cape. We are currently only represented in 4 of those districts. And this goes back to the challenge that we had around resourcing, where most of our applications were from urban and peri-urban areas and not so much the rural areas. And again, that people not meeting the qualifying criteria. But if you look at the actual breakdown in terms of the data provided by SASSA, when we look at the districts and we look at where our customers are primarily, you'll find that our customers are primarily in the city of Cape Town. And if you want to describe it as a secondary size of the base, it's city of Cape Town 68%, but Cape Winelands and Garden Route at 11% and 10% respectively in terms of the SASSA grant recipients. And the West Coast, Overberg, and Central Karoo constitutes another 11%. So in terms of that weighting as to where customers are, we then try to do our planning in terms of where we're going to put our sites so that we could, create the optimal points of presence to actually issue cards to those customers. And we arrived at the city of Cape Town having 27 sites, Winelands, West Coast, and Overberg and Garden Route between 4 and 6 sites, and Central Karoo 2 sites. But what we've done for each of these districts, considering the challenges that our grant recipients face in having to travel large distances, is for each of these districts, we are also in the process of setting up roving teams, which Eureka alluded to. These roving teams will probably be 6 consultants minimum per team. But what we plan to do and what we've already been doing with the roving teams that we have live is we split the teams up to where they are needed. Now, we are still on the journey to capacitate. This journey is also to create our points of presence as a bank going forward. And we will need a mix of these retailers, as I've described, and these roving teams beyond this project. So we will continue to capacitate and build up both types of teams, both the points of presence and the roving teams, to support the SASSA grants recipients, but also to support our customers. So where we are behind in terms of where we should be in terms of district representation, the roving teams, we, as part of the plan that I'm presenting now, will show that we are going to quickly ramp up to get the right coverage and to start meeting our customers where they are. In terms of today and the rollout plan, so today we have 38 active consultants across the province. We actually have another 15 that came out of training last week, so I don't want to count them as actually implemented yet, but that'll take us to 53. Sorry, that'll take us to 53 consultants that are post-bank consultants across those districts, and we've also got SPA that we are busy trying to implement with now, and we're expecting another 18 SPA agents to go live this week and 16 in the following week. So effectively, we'll move from 20 sites to 49 sites within the next 2 to 3 weeks. If there are no issues, I mean, so we're planning for 2 weeks, but we will encounter some issues that will take us into the 3rd week. That will more than double the number of sites that we have today. It'll grow it by 150%. And as per the previous slide, it will then give us coverage across all the districts, both with roving teams and with physical points of presence. So this is the plan as it stands today. You may have seen other versions of the plan. The plan constantly changes based on availability of retailers, based on other challenges that we face. But I think this is quite a concise plan at this stage, so we don't expect it to change too much within the next 3 weeks. It will just be a case of how well we can implement the sites, considering all the challenges we face on the journey to implement them. And you'll see that for district coverage, we've given prioritization to the smaller districts. And when I say smaller in terms of the grant recipients, so that we can actually create the points of presence now, and we can actually get the roving teams activated to go and start meeting our grant recipients, for example, in the rural areas that they're in, or at mass activation sites where we can try and meet them closer to their homes. And then in terms of numbers, I think Eureka alluded to the fact that we are slightly behind the national average. However, our rate of issuing cards is actually amongst the highest in the country right now. So because of the additional capacity that we onboarded in the last week, we are now issuing over 3,500 cards a day. So in terms of our initial target of 329,919 cards, we're issuing over 1% per day. And we anticipate within the next 2 weeks, we'll be issuing 2 to 3% of the cards of the total target on a daily rate. And that is significantly higher than the national average in terms of issuing. So we are starting to turn that around. But obviously the challenge still remains from a coverage perspective, which we're trying to resolve. At the current rate of issuing and the described number of sites that we're going to be increasing over the next 2 weeks, we anticipate that we could actually issue all cards by mid-April. Now, if you look at the sites, we go from 20 to 36 in the next week, but we go live with SPA, as I mentioned earlier. We also implement our cardless withdrawal registration process. I think someone asked a question around that earlier, where if a customer cannot, in the line on the day, get their card, they can then register for the cardless withdrawal process, which will allow them to come back at a more convenient time over the next 3 months, because we issue cards until the 31st of March, but they can still replace the card until the 30th of June. But if they are in a line, and for example, as the Deputy Minister alluded to the fact that Home Affairs is down, for example, or we have system issues, the person can then go and register for the cardless process and then take their time over the next 3 to 4 months to come back to complete the issuing of a new card, knowing that they can then go to a SAPO, South African Post Office, to get their cash. We are now with the implementation of or increasing the number of roving teams, going to dedicate more focus and time to working with SASSA and their ICOPS initiatives, working with them on our own mass activations and conducting home visits and visiting old age homes with them. And then at the end of March, obviously, our card withdrawal process will go live. And that's where customers can still come back to our lines or come back to our points of presence to get their new cards, but they will be able to then get their cash via SAPO. So no customer will actually be left without a solution. There will be a solution. And we are also going to be moving that or creating an online version of that solution. So where, as I initially mentioned, you have to go and follow the line and register. In the coming weeks, you'll be able to then go online. So you'll be able to go online and register for the cardless solution. So we are considering that as well. Okay. Yeah, and then in terms of sites, I think everyone in this room probably understands all the districts and all the sites, probably more than we do. But yeah, so we have 20 active sites today, including 2 roving teams. We are, as we speak, I mean, I think today is the 4th, busy implementing the sites that are listed between the 3rd and the 7th. We have not started SPA as of today. We are still finalizing a few things with them. But if you look at the Postbank sites, we are actively taking these sites live between yesterday and today, and will continue for the rest of the week. And we are also augmenting capacity at existing sites. So those 15 consultants that came out of training last week, those consultants are going into existing sites and going into these sites. And we've got another 13 coming out of training. So we're managing our own resource pool with the measures that I described to you earlier. And we're also leveraging SPA now, because with SPA, just to remind you, we won't have to put our own staff there. We'll be using their staff. So that's potentially 16 more sites this week. And that almost doubles our capacity and our coverage. And this week's focus specifically, if you look at those sites, are in Overberg, West Coast, and Central Peru. So attention's being given to those districts. What we are hopeful for is that we get roving teams 3 and 4 up, because that's where we will really start to be meeting customers closer to their homes. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Honorable members, we have received the first part of the presentation, and I believe we are making hard copies. The second part we have received and would be able to engage Postbank on that specific part. Members, whilst you get your questions ready, just based on the presentation made by Postbank, I'm very happy to hear that you have factored into your timeline that this process can be concluded by the end of the month. However, I am concerned in terms of exactly how you have factored in certain, for example, the roving teams. It's not as if all the teams allocated will start at a certain time and work up until the end of the month. There's a gradual increase in those teams, as well as a gradual increase of the certain sites. What I see also from the site view, I can understand that there's an increase, but where I see it, and as us members also serve our communities in the capacity as constituency heads, and know exactly in terms of how far the geographical outlay of certain areas, those areas are not specifically outlined in the detailed site view. Does that mean that the roving teams will ultimately be assigned to those areas? Because then it leaves me with more questions and uncertainty and concern. If there's a plan in terms of the sites being rolled out, there's a plan in terms of the capacity of the team as a whole, but not necessarily taking into account that those areas of the province that we are concerned of will in actual fact be reached by the end of the month. That is my one concern that I want to share. And if you can perhaps just engage on that. My second issue is also in terms of job applications. I think you mentioned, if I heard you correctly, especially in the Western Cape. Now, from where I sit, there's various means to have encountered or engaged on this issue. You said you are now working with DSD, and I think it's wonderful. Again, the timeline towards the end of the month. We've got our municipalities that has got job seekers databases with thousands of people unemployed. Was that an avenue that Postbank even considered in embarking on this process? Then, colleagues, if you can perhaps just allow me in terms of the provincial average. How many people has been reached in the Western Cape? How many people must still be reached? And in terms of your plan going forward to the end of March, are you in actual fact telling to this committee this morning, committing to this committee this morning, that the migration process will be concluded and beneficiaries will be transitioned by the end of the month? That concludes my questions. Let us just also agree on, are you taking the first batch and then I will go over to the members? Or you want all the questions?
Let me take these.
Yeah.
All questions? Or will you answer them per member?
Maybe let's do them per member and in that.
Per member, sure. You may proceed. Thank you.
Do you want to proceed with those?
Yeah. So in terms of the roving teams and the rural coverage, so considering, we have fallen behind in terms of the site activations for the reasons mentioned, what we've been trying to do is focus on finding those points of presence, which we've now identified. And earlier in the presentation, I took you through the numbers that we received from SASSA in terms of where most of the grant recipients were. So we prioritized those sites as a starting point, and that's what's in the presentation. But with regards to the roving teams, what we're finding is we're getting a lot of requests directly from ward councillors, from SASSA, from other interested stakeholders. So in our discussions with SASSA, we agreed that we'll take an approach where, in terms of prioritizing, we will work with them to prioritize where we go with the roving teams. So for example, I'll have a ward councillor who phones me, and what I've advised the ward councillors is, as these roving teams are set up, because we've only literally just got the first 2 roving teams, and now the second 2 are coming through this week. As they're set up, what we're going to do is we're going to set up an engagement model with SASSA and work through SASSA to then prioritize where we go. Because we are not entrenched in the communities. We don't have a deep understanding of the communities. So we do need someone to support us in making those decisions. And we think that SASSA is best placed to assist us. And I mean, to date, in the engagements that we've had with people from the various communities, including ward councillors, it's been well received when we tell them that we're going to work through SASSA. So I mean, we're open to ideas around how else we could potentially do it, but that is how we plan to execute at this stage. I mean, if I were to tell you now that we had a clear plan as how to go into all the communities and the science behind that, it's just something that it's very difficult to work out. So that's what we've come up with at this stage.
Thank you very much. I see Member Comfer, Kasim, Boyson, and Stevens, and Van Beek, and Member Barnes. Welcome to the meeting, Member Barnes. Members, you may proceed.
Chair, Chairperson.
Member Van Vogel, good morning.
Good morning. I just want you not to forget about us online, please.
Thank you very much, Member Van Vogel. Member Comfer. Member?
My concern remains, Chair, about the date, the end of the month. That is my worries, because I know, Chair, that I see the plan of Postbank, but that stop not there, Chair, because I know there's areas, there's no even a spa in the rural areas. I am aware that there's no Postbank, there's no spas, there's nothing from that what I see in your proposal. There's no resolutions of that. So my question is, the end of the day, how is Postbank, what is the guarantee that will the end of the month that will resolve the problem? So my question is can you extend the date, maybe, Chair? That is my simple request, Chair, my humble plea to the department, because I know you will not, the end of the month, people will stand in long queues and nothing, it don't have money. So that is my concern, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Comfer. Members, I'm sure that you have a lot of questions. And it's a pity that we could not extend our session due to the next standing committee meeting after this one. But we will try at best to exhaust members' questions. I've also noted members of the public also traveling all the way to our meeting this morning. So I would just want to rule also in terms of Rule 72(4), which makes provision for members of the public to engage and become involved in parliamentary processes. That is indeed very important. So if I can please ask members, not taking away from anything that you would want to ask or the importance thereof, that we please just try to contain and summarize our questions so that we also can get to SASSA. But also we want to make the linkage and the relationship between the two entities. How does it work to the benefit of the residents of the Western Cape? So we want to come to that point as well. So thank you for your indulgence. Next member, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, my first question is with regards to the job applicants and the criteria that was needed. I just wanted to check. You said that many of the there was 1,500 applications and only 40 received those jobs because they either didn't have matric or they didn't have the necessary qualifications. But in the same breath, you say that job offers were they didn't want to take the job offers because of a low salary. So to start with, how much exactly are you paying them if they need a tertiary qualification, a matric, and you're giving a low salary as well? And then of that 40 who got the jobs, I just wanted to check, are they linked to those who resigned when it comes to staff who resigned because of syndicates and stuff like that? And then I want to go on to the 70%. You mentioned that 77% of cards has been issued in the Western Cape. According to your presentation, it says 77% cards issued. Is that in the Western Cape or across the country?
24% in the Western Cape.
No, there's a before that it says 70%, 77% issued on your presentation. So I just wanted to check where exactly in which regions in the Western Cape is that, and then also your 50 cards per tallow policy. If you look at the different farming areas and informal settlements, how are you looking at changing that? Because it's quite impossible that we have one station which needs to cater for 5 to 10 different communities, and that's why you have the long queues on a daily basis. So you're planning to change the policy of 50 cards per tally, because then it means we'll have more elderly people standing in lines every day, fainting and going home and coming back the next day to do the same thing. And then my last question, Chairperson, for now, the sense of urgency, you mentioned that there was a delay or things were not done as it's supposed to be done because beneficiaries had no sense of urgency. I wanted to check, what did you do on your part to ensure that those who live in farming areas, if you look at places like Cedarburg or even informal settlements across the province, what did you do to ensure that the communication is got out to them in time? Because like, many of our elderly people who live in farming areas and even our young adults as well, they don't have access to social media because that is one of your main resources of communication, that you're communicating to them via social media and websites. So they don't have TVs, they don't have social media. So how did you make a plan to ensure that they get that information? Because that is why I'm coming in terms of who is that, those who are not part of that 77%, which area is that? Because I'm trying to determine if it's farming areas or informal settlements. Thank you, Chairperson.
Kasim, then we will deal now with the questions posed by members Kamfa and Kasim. You may proceed with the answering of those two questions.
Okay, I'm going to take the one on the job applications, and I'll hand over to my colleague Dr. D to talk about communication. So the job application process, I think what was important to us from the outset is that we follow a very transparent, sort of open process. So we started the process by placing ads, to which we had 33,000 respondents nationally, and then we screened them as we would any other. When we found that we were running into issues specifically in the Western Cape, we then opened up to SAPO, the retrenchment list, as well as to the NYDA, the National Youth Development Agency. We started using those two databases. At that point, we relaxed the requirement for Matric Plus. So our original requirement was Matric Plus. Obviously, you cannot have a bad credit rate status, you cannot have a criminal record. So there's a couple of criteria that we screen the applicants on. It's not just qualifications. And then, as I said, those were the databases we tapped into to increase the pool of resources that would be available to us. The SAPO database has been quite successful, which is how we've managed to recruit the additional 30-odd individuals in the last 2 weeks. And that's what we're pursuing now, together with the National Youth Development Agency database. In our discussions with the MEC of the GSD yesterday, his office also is going to assist us to identify other databases that we may tap into now going forward. Dr. D, I'm going to hand over to you to talk about the communication channels.
Yeah, and no, thanks, Eureka. Morning, Chair, and morning, members. So maybe to provide context, one needs to go back in terms of the communication approach we took for the project. And I'll start at national level and zoom in into the Western Cape as a province. So we started last year already to communicate the issue of cards needing to be replaced. If chair and members can recall, it seems no. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. So I was saying, Chair, and maybe a bit of context in terms of the communications approach for this project, because we're running a national scale project, and we started as early as last year significantly to start talking about the cards needing to be replaced. If the chair and members can recall, The current SASSA cards had expired a while back, and we had gone into the public and indicated that we've gotten permission from the industry to extend the validity of the cards. So we then had to start saying, once we produced the black cards around April last year, we were already telling the public and beneficiaries that the black cards are here. We will announce when they should be getting them. I think around June, when we started with our staggered rollout of the program, we started then communicating. But because we were staggered, some of the comms around it was ring fenced to the areas where we had started replacing already. Towards the end of the year, really, that's when we started ramping up the communications, and throughout the course, throughout the journey, we were observing the low response around it from the beneficiaries. To be honest, we started really seeing the numbers coming forward once we started talking about the deadline. And in us even talking about the deadline, we were tactical in terms of how we approached it. We started first announcing a soft deadline of the 28th of February. Then we came and then announced a hard deadline of the 20th of March. In terms of the channels, I mean, communicating this type of thing really needs all your multi-prong channel approach to really reach the masses, because you really have a diversity of audience, beneficiaries of all ages, beneficiaries of all levels of literacy. So we used every available communication channel at our disposal. We really depended highly on radio, national radio, SABC stations in all languages. But we also used a community radio on the ground, because it really speaks to the beneficiaries near to where they are. But we also, as the member observed, used social media, and I'll provide context for the chair. The comms approach was also data-driven, just like the site's identification approach. The majority of the beneficiaries on our database, on the Postbank payments database, I think over 70% are young mothers, child grant beneficiaries. And then that is followed, I think, by a mix of the disability grants and the elderly. I think our projections are that elderly beneficiaries are about 10%. So that sort of defines how we eventually also leveraged social media as another means of communicating. But we didn't leave it at the chain. This is the last channel I'll talk to. We went deeper into the ground, where we depended on the councillors and the traditional leaders as our sort of ambassadors of the message on the ground in the areas where we were operating. When the colleagues are talking about the roving teams that are going into the areas, because we don't have that hand that stretches that far, the councillors, the local councillors, the ward councillors would be the one that create awareness for us, for the beneficiaries in the area, that Postbank and SASSA teams are coming to replace cards in the areas. In fact, and we really wish to thank them even in this public platform, some of the venues that we had used to do this actual replacements of the cards were obtained by the councillors on the ground, and they'll call us, the traditional leaders, and say, here's a venue in my area. I've made aware that the beneficiaries are aware you're coming, and the dates are out there. So we approached the comms around this really using all multiple approaches. Did we get 10 out of 10? Chair, I think we can still do better. We do get the feedback and accept it that we really need to ramp it up, and especially where we are now, where we're closer to the deadline, and we're going to be introducing other methods of payments, as the DM indicated earlier on. That is an area that we really need to amplify a lot so that the message reaches everyone else. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Stevens and Member Boyson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm listening to whatever who said what, but to me, it comes to the point, like it was said now that they were starting with this thing last year already, planning that there's going to be a change from the gold to the black card. Postbank, why couldn't they also started last year already, negotiating with the SPARs and the different, even for ShopRite, because you get a ShopRite in in all the rural areas. And for me is like they were supposed to concentrate on the rural areas first. Because in the rural areas, you get a lot of disabled, elderly people and disabled people. Like for instance, I overheard what my colleague was saying, like in Citrusdal, for instance. There is a spa, but there was no communication with that spa. That people had to hike or to make a plan to get to Friedenberg to change their cards. And to me, it costs money to get to another area, and it's not cheap. And my other question is, what's going to happen after the 20th when the people get into the queues to collect their money? I know there's a lot of people that's going to be sent back without that little money that they're getting. How long is the people going to then wait to get that money, to get the SASSA money, if they're going to send back because they didn't swap, that they didn't change their card on time? So, and I know it's going to happen. There's a lot of people it's going to be sent back. How long is that people then going to wait to receive their money? Thank you, Chair.
Member Stevens, Member Boyson.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, a lot of us here have started to assist with the drive. So may I request through you, Chairperson, that by the end of this meeting, we get the contact numbers of the rowing teams in the different districts so that we can make our own arrangements. When we're there, then we join up with them. And then secondly, Chairperson, I'm worried about Murphy's Law. I think Member Stevens almost covered me with Murphy's Law. There are possibilities that might influence some people missing the deadline. It's ignorance, it's procrastination, it's miscommunication, it's a last-minute rush that might crash the system. What is the backup plan? Thank you.
Thank you, Member. And I think we're going to deal with the rest of the members in one so that we can conclude this presentation. Member Van Wyk.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, I must say I'm quite concerned about what we've heard here today. We are told we are 24% done. We're told there's a target, a deadline of the 20th of March. And if we're only rolling out at 1% a day, which is 3,500, in the next week, we're meant to get more sites online. Now, the way I calculated for the next 10 days, we're only going to get 1%. And if we then move to 2% today, it's going to take us another 30 days. So we are talking 40 working days, which is 8 weeks. And then there's a whole bunch of public holidays in between. So we're at least 9 weeks away of getting this concluded, if everything works well. Then if I look at the list of, on the executive summary of these main places, the 16 main sites, there's no reference of a Stellenbosch, no reference of an Overstrander and a Manus, of a Mossel Bay, of an Eisner, of a Beto, of the whole Robertson area, of the Witzenberg, of Malmesbury, of Somerset West, the Strand, not to talk of the West Coast. Where are those people? Are they expected to move to one of these sites that are there? How are they going to get there? How is that in fact going to work? how is the communication going to work? Because to me, I'm very worried that we are not going to be reaching the 20th of March.
Thank you very much, Member Van Wyk, and that latches onto the question in terms of the sites identified, factored into the period until the end of the month, but not necessarily considering the geographical layout and the areas of concern, especially. Member Barnes and then Member Van Vogel.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe one or two practical questions based on sites that were presented, Chair. For Cape Town, 4 sites have been presented. So where I'm just making my own calculations. If it allows 150 people per day, then you multiply that 150 by 5 per day per branch. It gives you 750 and 3,750 people for 5 branches a week. I'm just trying to figure out how are we going to meet the target. The experts, of course, are on that side. Maybe you must just help me and take me through to that. I think my colleagues on the side have also assisted with the questions that I wanted to ask on the rural part of it, but more practical to it. I'm from Beaufort West. Last time we spoke from Beaufort West. I'm going back there tomorrow. How are you accommodating Maritzburg, Nelsburg, Merwewil, Leeugamka? They don't have nothing of those things. How are they filtered into what is presented here? Because there's nothing. I'm from Maritzburg. I'm driving people myself to get to SASSA. How are you going to deal with that? They won't be meeting that date. That one I can say boldly. Is there a special plan put aside for them? And if they don't meet that deadline, what's going to happen to them? I'm just asking as their representative. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Barnes. Member Van Vogel.
Good morning, Chair, and thank you for the opportunity. Chair, I would like to highlight that Swellendam no longer has a post bank, and it's most of the rural area in most of the rural areas, and it actually not serving their clients. But what we have done in my area, Swellendam, last year we started with a campaign with the advice office, encouraging SASSA beneficiaries to switch over to ordinary banks. So this has actually streamlined our process in my area, and we are actually working very well with the SASSA officials assisting us. But the post office is a problem. I think it's all over. But my concern is when it comes, people like to speak about the rural areas. And for them, rural areas will be, if they refer to rural areas, Swellendam, they will refer to Beaufort, or they will Saldanha. But I'm speaking about rural areas like the farming community, because you mentioned about SPA. I think there was this issue of SPA. The SPA agreement has been identified as a key strategy for scaling distribution. So I want to understand, is there any other engagements with agri-forum or farm owners, structures that can assist our farm workers community, our farming community? Because I think that is important, because that's a problem that we are experiencing in our area, is the farming community. Then lastly, Chair, I also see you mention in your mitigation plan that Postbank is working with the MEC. It's the office. Can you tell us more about the support and resources you have received from the MEC's office up until today? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Van Vogel. Colleagues, we're going to conclude on questions to Postbank at that point. Member Barnes, perhaps just your question. I think that was mostly directed to SASSA. I also visited the Beaufort West office last week, and the office manager had a plan of action. But I think when we come to SASSA's presentation, they can perhaps just elaborate on that and whether there have been some action in terms of what was proposed. But as you ask, you don't see or anticipate the process being concluded, mentioning those far-off areas. But I think for your question, we will give SASSA an opportunity when we get to them. Postbank.
Thank you, Chair. So I think I'm going to cover off the the questions around contingency plan again. As mentioned earlier, our contingency plan really is to allow beneficiaries who have not swapped their cards by the 20th of March to go to any SAPO branch, and there are 61 in the province, and to withdraw their grants or to withdraw through the cardless process. Okay, so that is the contingency plan. So no one should be left stranded by the 20th of March. I want to stress that those are processes that are already in place and will simply be enabled for those beneficiaries who have not yet, for whatever reason, had an opportunity to swap their cards. I think the plan that Rowan has presented is how he intends to double the number of sites from 20 to 49. It does not mean at the current run rate that we will complete the issuing process by the 20th of March. In fact, his calculations show that that will be closer to the end of April if we continue with the current run rate. But the point is that post 20th of March, we will continue issuing cards up until the end of June, and grants will be accessible through SAPO branches and through the cardless process during that time. So that is the contingency plan. It is tested, it is working. And I want to assure you again that grant recipients will receive their grants post the 20th, even if they have not replaced their cards, but the sites will be open and available for beneficiaries to continue to swap cards out. In terms of farming communities, that kind of scenario is exactly why the roving teams were set up. We will appreciate any input, as Rowan said, in terms of exactly how to access those communities and the best way to do that. We've partnered with SASSA, but we welcome any input from any members of the forum to guide us in terms of where to go and where to direct our roving teams for efficiency. I'm going to hand over to Rowan to talk a little bit more about the sites and the areas, the questions around specific areas.
I think, Eureka, you actually answered both those questions. They were both around rural areas. I think there was one question around some of the areas that we're not in, the more built-up areas that we're not in. We actually initially had scoped those areas. I think it was this gentleman seated here. Around some of the areas that he mentioned, we actually had them with SPA, but what's happened subsequently is those SPAs have declined to partake in this project. So we are now revisiting ShopRites and Pick n Pays in some of those specified areas. Again, we will not be able to cover all the areas. And back to Eureka's point, where we are unable to cover an area, we would have to then utilize a roving team and the prioritization thereof.
Thank you very much, members. As I said, I think we're going to conclude.
If I may add, Chair, I think there was a question also asked by the honourable member in relation to why had we not negotiated with all of the retailers, at the beginning of the project itself. We actually did. And I think as my colleague Eureka was presenting, we at the start of the project, we had 1,500 sites that were available to us. The 1,500 needed to be filled with individuals to man and be able to replace. And these sites are continue to be available. I think the challenges that my colleagues have already raised around recruitment has been the main thing that has really compounded, the activation of all of these sites, I think, as you've indicated. I think the engagement with SPA has certainly changed the approach, especially because they are bringing the people with the sites, that they are offering to us nationwide. So that's important. I also wanted just to add in terms of the cardless solution. There's over 1 million people currently utilizing that cardless solution. It's an existing process. It is not different to how it currently works. So we are not introducing a new process that's that beneficiaries will need to be overly educated on. It is an existing process, and that's why we're banking on that, being a contingency post the 20th of March. But I think as it's emphasized, no one is not going to be paid their grant. Regardless, the post office has made themselves available to us. Also a process that currently exists. It's not a new process. A lot of the beneficiaries still continue to use the post office as we speak. And so I think the discomforts and a concern around what happens to the overall member that asked what happens post the 20th of March is that the process will continue. We do not stop to issue cards. The same people that are currently available to replace cards will continue to be available even after the 20th. As we proceed, we will certainly encourage everyone to change their cards as quickly as possible and as early as we can. Thank you.
Can I please just also direct a plea to Postbank? Please communicate in a manner that is accessible to all residents of the Western Cape. Also, what one of the, and I'm sure members can attest to that, was your communication was very confusing, in the sense that people understood that they could go to any ShopRite or any Boxer, for example, and do the switching, which was not the case. If you can please perhaps improve on that communication as well.
Chairperson?
Member Van Vogel?
Yeah, my questions was not answered. Was there engagement with structures when it comes to farming community? And also what type of service assistance have you received from the MEC locally in the province?
Thank you
Because
very
they
much.
mentioned it in their
Thank you very much,
presentation.
Member Van Vogel. Are there any other stakeholder engagements with regards to rural areas? And I know that you've mentioned earlier that you had an engagement with Minister Lund. I think through our parliamentary privileges, we will ask the minister the question, as both entities are national entities, but I know with SASSA, for example, there's regular engagements with Minister Lund. To what extent, we obviously can ask the question, and we will pose the same question in terms of the engagement with Postbank, to what extent DSD Western Cape is becoming involved. Can you please just elaborate on the stakeholders involved? Thank you.
Yeah, no, Chair, and apologies, we didn't intend to sidestep that question. It just slipped in the flurry of questions we were answering. So, Chair, first, maybe one can start by saying we would really appreciate if the House can assist us even reaching as many stakeholders on the ground as we can. We've extended that request to SASSA as well, because they've got local offices, they are on the ground. We've also had engagements with some of the ward councillors that we were able to reach to assist us, because we don't claim to know the Western Cape. We actually in the Western Cape to be educated for us to really do this critical service to the community to the best of our ability. And I think that was the engagement with Minister Lund yesterday for us to be enriched with knowledge and guidance on how we could approach this cuts migration process in the Western Cape to the best of what we've got now, so that we reach everybody else and nobody is left behind. And Chair, I love the suggestion by the member that we should exchange numbers on the roving teams. I think the request is beyond the roving teams, Chair, is to where else in the province can we tap into this rich knowledge and IP of members, esteemed members of the House, to really get to the ground and make sure that in the remaining period, one, every beneficiary knows that they will continue to be paid even if they haven't swapped their card. And every beneficiary knows that they will still be able to get their card post the 20th. And they know exactly where they're going to be paid. But we also assisted in go to this particular area, and this is probably what you need to take along, because there is a captive audience of beneficiaries that you need to issue cards. We really love to, when we exchange the numbers, that we get the input to that extent, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. That deals with our post-bank presentation, questions and answer session. I'm sure within the period leading up to the deadline, you will receive another invitation in your inbox from this committee, because we would love to be kept abreast on further developments and how that factoring in of resources and capacity in the Western Cape, how that impacts on the residents of the Western Cape, and indeed the strides that we are making with regards to the transition. So we will certainly have you back, and thank you so much for your time this morning. As I said, members also will have an opportunity for the resolutions and the recommendations. So we will factor that into our next correspondence to you. Honorable members, can I also from my side just ask that we are not going to take a formal comfort break. If you need to leave the room, please just indicate so, but for the sake of time, we would like to continue. Honorable Acting Regional Manager, it's good to have you back.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you so much. Good morning once again, Chairperson. Good morning, honorable members, and my colleagues from Post Office and from Post Bank, and members of the community. Chairperson, I think it was a good thing that you made us the second to present, because our plan is actually developed to support Post Bank plan. So it would not have made sense if we started first and then Post Bank came after us. I want to say before I get onto the presentation, if I happen to forget the question of Beaufort West, please remind me. If I answer it now, it won't make sense. I'd rather preface it with some information that will make my answer make sense. Chair and members, I want to first, before I start with the presentation, indicate that as SASSA, we have prioritized this project because we understand the importance of it. It has actually been put ahead of all the activities that we do inside SASSA. This is a period of closing of the financial year. We have put that aside. We have prioritized this project. We have AG and the offices. We try to run parallel with this project. We report at EXCO every week, and then we will also be expected to report at the portfolio committee. As you can see that the executive manager from National is here, it is because of the fact that we take the project very serious. We have approved overtime to support the Post Bank so that we make sure that everything goes smooth. The CEO and the minister are always on the ground to monitor the implementation of this project, and as how do we support Post Bank. We are always in the media, in various radio stations. We try to divide ourselves amongst managers and our senior communication officer in the region to make sure that we try and respond to the questions by the community the best possible way we can. And then lastly, we have activated SCM supply chain processes so that when we go to these areas where the people go and queue, at least we bring some dignitary services, although it is not actually the SASSA thing, but because we know it's our beneficiaries. We'll bring chairs, we'll bring water where we can. And that also really has dug into our pocket, which is already torn because we are leaking. I indicated that we have also opened overtime, that we work on weekends. We work after hours. Our open system that would normally open up at 7 and close it at 5 is now opened until 7 o'clock at night and over the weekend from 8 o'clock to 1 o'clock. That I just wanted Chairperson to put that up front so that you can all understand how have we prioritized this project. I will be doing a presentation. As you can see, my name is Busiso Ntangoti. I'm the acting regional executive manager of SASSA in the province. I am accompanied by the team, Mr. Van Vrede, who's an executive manager of grant administration at head office nationally, Mr. Jansen, executive support in my office, who's sitting next to me. Mrs. Baxter behind me was the general manager finance and acting general manager corporate services, Mr. Seu, and then senior manager, Ms. Wahab, our communication director in the province, senior manager, Ms. Gonyela, operations, sitting next to me. The purpose of the presentation, or before I get to the purpose, these are the areas that I would cover during my presentation quickly. Although they look long, I'm not going to take much time because most of the things have been covered by the Deputy Minister and my colleagues from Postbank. I'll deal with the purpose, the legislative requirement, which you're all familiar with. I'm not going to deal with the MSA with Postbank because the Deputy Minister has covered it quite well. And then SASSA role in card replacement, SASSA progress made thus far, SASSA mitigation of challenges experienced in the Postbank process, and then challenges out of SASSA control. And then lastly, I will hand over to the manager, to the executive manager, to deal with SRD update as we were requested by this House. We said the purpose of the presentation, we would want to provide a SASSA overview of the card replacement process. We want to provide the standing committee an indication of the challenges experienced and the interventions that we have implemented as SASSA from SASSA perspective to mitigate the challenges. And then lastly, we want to provide an update on the COVID SRD, which will be done by the executive manager, Mr. Van Vrede. I also thought that it is going to be very important that we preface once again our presentation by quoting this little piece of legislation, which will be a cornerstone throughout our presentation, because it's very important and it is a legislation that I will use when I respond to the question about Beaufort West. That in terms of our regulations 13, SASSA as an agency shall pay the social grant into the bank account of the beneficiary or institution where the beneficiary resides, provided that the beneficiary of the social grant has consented to such by electronic communication or any means of communication and has submitted such consent to the agency, to SASSA. Secondly, provided that where a beneficiary is unable to submit the consent contemplated in subparagraph Roman figure 1, alternative arrangements must be made with the agency or by the payment method determined by the agency. That basically actually says that the beneficiary has an option to use any other form of payment as determined by them. So we just follow the beneficiary, we listen to the beneficiary, and we assist them to access their social assistance. Now, I said I'm not going to touch this slide, otherwise I will spoil what the minister has just said, the deputy minister. I would like to start with the card replacement process. Firstly, all clients' payments will be processed as normal and funds are safely stored in the client's bank account. This process will not affect the grant beneficiaries for what they are entitled to. So we wanted to put that up front, that as the card process is being done, this will not affect money already put by SASSA in the account of the beneficiary. But there are options available, as I started with the regulation 23, that SASSA Gold Card, which expired on 20 March 2025, as the chairperson said, that the date in the mind of everybody is 20 March. It has to be replaced with a black card from Postbank. Or the client can also utilize the method of payment, which we refer to as MOP. So as I continue with my presentation, if I refer to MOP, just know that I mean the method of payment chosen by the client. Services, MOP services of another bank by changing their payment method at their nearest local office. I've indicated the regulation that it allows the client that they can go to the local office and say, I want my money to be paid in my particular bank. We don't promote any bank, but we allow the client to tell us where does the client want us to pay the money.
Social grants recipients who choose to get their social grant payment through their personal bank account must bring along the following documents to SASSA. Proof of bank account received from their bank, or 3-month bank statement that depicts the personal details of the client, such as names and bank accounts. And then lastly, the proof of identity. The card replacement process. As it has been indicated that in the beginning, there was a slow movement initially before January 2025. As a normal practice, when the due date comes to a close, people start to panic and then start to take seriously. When it was announced that the card expiry will no longer be extended beyond March 2025, we started to see beneficiaries flock to card replacement sites in January. That's where the actual challenge started. Then the process itself, beneficiary reports to the card replacement sites identified by Postbank with their IDs, and Postbank will replace the card with a black Postbank card. After the card issuance, the beneficiary is encouraged to check if the card is indeed activated. I will not deal on that one much because it's a process of Postbank, but I thought I just need to mention at a very high level. SASSA role in the replacement, in card replacement, and I think this is what Chairperson in this house want to know, and I want to deal with it. SASSA developed a support plan for the Postbank card replacement project plan. I said from the beginning that our plan is to support the plan of Postbank. This plan includes advising Postbank on possible sites for card replacement based on the number of beneficiaries per area as per SOCPEN system. Our social pension system that stores the beneficiary information is the one that we use to guide Postbank to say, these are the areas with X number of beneficiaries, you can put your sites there because we are the custodian of that information. We deployed SASSA staff from the regional, local office and district to support Postbank with queue management and advising beneficiaries on the process. I indicated that everything takes the backseat now until the 20th of March at SASSA. If you go to any local office, Chairperson, I was here last month and I was questioned about the queues, about the sleepovers. While we were dealing with that, we needed to find a way to multitask and deal with that while we deal with this because it's both important for both our beneficiaries. So it is definitely not business as usual in our offices. We developed this plan, it's a national plan. We try to reduce it to the province so that it fits our own Western Cape as to what are the needs of Western Cape. So all our SASSA officials, including myself, the general managers, everybody is on the ground because the minister, the CEO, and the leadership from head office are leading from the front. They are there, they are on the ground. So we are all on the ground to make sure that we monitor this process. We advise Postbank on the location of institutions where card replacements are required. Remember, we have institutions where we keep away where the people are residing, like the old age people. We have in the region about 197 of them. We advise Postbank, these are the institutions where we have our clients who will also want to replace their cards. So that information they got from us. That's one of our roles in the card replacement. We provide Postbank with details of beneficiaries requiring home visits because that's something that has not been spoken about here. That currently we have 24 homes that still need to be visited, and with around 3,000 people that must be still visited, who form part of the number that is not yet being replaced. So all that information, we have it, we give it to Postbank because much as we want a person to support, we can only do so much. We cannot issue a card. That's not our expertise. We cannot do what Postbank is doing. Ours is to make sure that their job is made as easy as possible, and we are doing our best to make sure that we do that. Progress made thus far. SASSA, we have provided Postbank with possible 66 sites in the province where card replacement sites could be established. We said, yes, we see that you have these planned 27 sites. Can please look into these 66 sites We can provide the list of those sites to the committee, to the House if needs be. These are the areas where we think as the members can say, what about that area? What about that area? We've used our sock pen, our information that we have to go to all those areas to see that every place where we have footprints, they are covered during this cut replacement. So we gave Post Bank that information. We deployed staff to various Post Bank sites. We set in our plan 2 SASSA officials per site, but we do more than that. If you go last week, for example, last week we were all, I think we were in Golden Acre, there were about 10 SASSA officials. In Belleville, there were about also 10. Go to Pero, there was also about 10. So we were all in the ground. There's never been a time where when we go to support, we'll send one person. We try to try and really release all our resources. We provided a list of all outreaches planned for the quarter to Post Bank to come and replace cards. This is what we do. And I want to take a chairperson, you and the committee, a little bit back to my regulation 23, which I opened with, to say, we already calculated, as you did, that there is no way that we can reach the remaining 240,000 whose cards still need to be replaced in the province. We said, let us once again intensify our beneficiary education, make sure that our beneficiaries know what are other options available to them, without saying don't go to Post Bank. But we said we are going to have outreach programs for what I said earlier on, MOP, which is method of payment outreach programs, where you can come and say, I want to change this card to my bank, to ABSA, to Standard Bank, to whatever bank. We'll assist you, complete forms, and then we give form, you go to the bank. Once we do that, it's between the beneficiary and the bank. So we try to have all these outreach programs throughout the province. And then I'm going to talk to the statistics of those at a later stage. So that's what we do. And then we'll always invite Post Bank to say, we are going to have an outreach program in this area on this day. Please come and replace cards. But we also invite other banks to say, come and set up your tables so that when beneficiaries want to come to you, they don't have to travel to town, don't have to travel to malls, at least two are there. And we invite all banks. We don't go to a specific bank. So we make sure that we are not seen to be biased. We have a SASSA project team that was established that meets with Post Bank on a weekly basis to monitor process and strengthen collaboration. We try our level best that a week does not pass without us meeting with Post Bank. If we cannot, we will try at least to reach out with a telephone or with a WhatsApp or with an email to say, oh, sorry, okay.
That's this one.
Apologies, Chairperson, there's some technical issues. Okay, thank you very much. The project team, we try to make sure that we meet with SASSA, with Post Bank officials. We call them, we communicate, we share information, we share statistics, we ask questions, we require for additional assistance, we indicate where there are gaps and ask them to come and assist. We try to keep that relationship alive by meeting on a daily basis. We also arrange a stakeholder engagement and different stakeholder engagements. We work with councillors. They invite us to say that, come, we've gathered this group of people. Can you please come and take them applications and refer them to Post Bank, refer them to other banks, give them form. We are there at a call. Most of the councillors have called us. I'm sitting here now. I received a call last night that the councillor in East Rivier already arranged such. And then, because we said for us to have control, to avoid some scrupulous people who call themselves councillors and use the name of SASSA, every request of that is approved at my office. So just to have control, not that we want to. So, and then I'm being called, and then the office managers will request that. So we do that. We are at a radio station in different radio stations. If it's not me, it's one of the general managers or is the head of communication in the province, because we want to make sure that every information is known. We distribute posters, pamphlets, and we also make sure that we are on social media. We are in radio stations. We are everywhere. There has been some complaints that we don't use certain platforms, we don't go to social media where we are expected to talk to young people who use social media platform. But we said, when we come here, let us come and demonstrate that if you go to social media, you will find us. And this is SASA that is advertising here. It is not anybody, it is us. It may be now in English language. There are so many clips in different languages so that we can, and I want to spend, Chairperson, with your permission, few seconds just to play this advert which we put on the social media some time ago.
Can I do so, sir?
Thank
beneficiaries
you.
who are using the SASA Gold Card. Did you know that the deadline to swap your Gold SASA card for the Postbank Black Card has been extended to 20 March 2025? Yes, we have listened to concerns and frustrations from our valued social grant beneficiaries and extended the deadline to 20 March 2025. Please go to your nearest Postbank site, which is mainly located at one of the retailers near you that include Checkers, ShopRite, Pick n Pay, USafe and Boxer, and get your Postbank Black Card to continue transacting. Clients must only produce a valid South African ID or temporary ID. No card will be issued without these documents. To make sure that we are able to assist beneficiaries to swap their cards as efficiently as possible, we are working tirelessly to add more human capacity and are working with retailers to increase the number of sites across the country. Mobile officers will also be dispatched to focus on rural areas and to ensure that we assist as many people as possible. SASA, paying the right social grant to the right person at the right time and place. Njalo.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. I just wanted to indicate that the advert that we put, we try to make sure that it covers everything, that the beneficiary, when is listening, at least by the time they come to us, they know exactly what is happening. It also deals with panicking because there's a lot of misinformation that goes out there. But if it comes from us, people know us. Anything that SASA Postbank is doing wrong, we take the blame. Anything they do right, we take credit. People know us, beneficiaries know us. They think that everybody is us. So it's important that although we are playing a support role, but we also try to lead. So SASA mitigating of challenges experienced in the post bank. We've conducted a beneficiary education to promote Regulation 23. When a beneficiary applies for the grant, before it is approved, we explain Regulation 23, to the options available to the beneficiaries. But we said, let us try and again do it so that the beneficiaries start to remember that in case they have option, in case we don't meet the deadline. Over and above planned outreach programs, we have introduced method of payment outreaches in identified areas based on the outstanding numbers. I've already indicated, tried to explain what the method of payment MOP is, but what we do, this is statistics driven. We don't just wake up and set up an outreach there. We are driven by statistics that we know that in Belleville we've got 42,000 clients that whose cards must be swapped. In Eerste we've got about 30 something thousand. So that makes us immediately to know which our priority areas are, and then we set up our MOP there, our MOP outreach there. We've developed 26 special outreach programs as we speak, starting from the 21st of February, looking forward to the 20th March 2025. We've already done, we'll be doing 26 special outreach programs. But this has been revisited. And I want to say with that, in Beaufort West, we already, the week that we come from, we had an outreach program at the ShopRite at the rank. There's one plan for the 6th in Lanesburg to Song Center, and the 3rd, and also the 6th Nelsport. On the 8th, we have got one in Checkers, Beaufort West. On the 11th, we've got one in Prince Albert. On the 10th, we have one in Mauriceburg. On the 12th, we have one in Matchesfontein. 12th, we've got one in Freeland Farm. 13, we've got one in Glassfontein. 17, we've got one in Mauriceburg. And 18, we have one in Louis Kamcha. That is the area of Beaufort West that we'll be covering, and some of the areas we've already covered. So we try from our side that in these areas there will be banks that we invited. There will also be post bank that will be invited. Can I just pause? I see the members' hand is.
Member. Sorry, Chairperson, and sorry for the interruption. Chairperson, that is exactly what we need. It is not in the presentation. If we can get those dates as well, please.
We'll certainly do, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, member.
Yes. Some of the information we thought when we came here, maybe it's critical, and then we put it, but we'll make sure that we circulate with the members. Can you make note say? Post Bank and other banks are invited to special I-crop mobs, outreaches to either do card replacements, that is Post Bank, or assist beneficiaries to change method of payment. And these are other banks. SASSA takes part in any outreach arranged by councillors and other key stakeholders on requests for method of payment. I've already indicated that. I went to my church. I asked on Sunday just to go to normal church service. I asked the pastor to give me a chance at the end of the church just to have 10 minutes to speak to the congregation of the situation at SASSA, and they appreciated it. Now the pastors invite us and they get people together. We come there and then we do what we're supposed to do. Then the challenges that are out of our control, colleague, Chairperson and the members of Parliament. The Minister of Social Development, Honorable Minister Tolashe, is on the ground ensuring that beneficiaries are dealt with dignity in implementing the SASSA plan. The SASSA plan that I said we have that support the Post Bank was presented before the minister, was presented at the portfolio committee, and they are watching us to see, are we doing as we promised, as we came and commit. So the minister is everywhere. If he's not here in the Western Cape, he's in other regions. Systems downtime delays the card replacement process. These are some of the things that are frustrating the minister, are frustrating the beneficiaries, are also frustrating us, because the support that we provide, we cannot do anything if the system is down. Shortage of Post Bank officials to deal with the number of beneficiaries. Post Bank has already indicated what they're doing with that, recruitment and so forth. Due to the limited number of Post Bank cards replacement sites, beneficiaries in some instances must travel long distances to do card replacement. One of the problems that when we go to the ground, and when the minister went to the ground, she picked up were those issues like the shortage of cards, which caused the beneficiaries to walk distances. And she spoke to the beneficiaries herself. It's not us who said, Minister, this is what's happening. In other areas, each area sites are not available. So those are some of the challenges that are beyond our control. And we also want to say, let us support our statement by making sure that the committee and you, Chairperson, hear for yourself what the minister says after she conducted the visit. This is the day that she conducted the visit a week ago. So it's quite a, we cut it just for the beginning.
Social Development Department and SASSA, who are in the Western Cape, Belvedere in particular, who came to come and play oversight whether the process of Post Bank is working, of replacing Post Bank cards from gold to black. Belleville has got 42,000 clients that need that replacement. This one is one of those. There are only 3 of them here. Here we found people who slept over in this area in the queue. Some came as early as 1 a.m. in the morning. When they got inside, the facilities are not so good. The system of Post Bank are extraordinarily slow. Between 8 and 12, they've done 15 cards, only 15. The tellers are saying there isn't much that they can do about that. They can only report it to their IT people, which they've done that. They've got no feedback to say whether that is going to be resolved or not. Our worst problem is people who are standing here today, who were here last week already, might have to come back again. And those who come from the furthest, they pay an amount of plus minus 100 rand for them to come here and go back. And the possibility is they are going to pay this money today without having served, and they will have to come back again tomorrow. There's no guarantee that they will be served. Now, our problem is it's so unhuman to make people to go through this. We are calling upon Postbank to make sure that their plan is working. At the moment, it is not working. We must be clear that we are from other areas where we experience the fact that the plan for now is not working. Whatever that was said is going to happen, it's not happening. We want to appreciate what SASSA did, the SASSA intervention of bringing chairs, also bringing water for the people. The worst thing is we are not sure if they are going to meet their deadline. If here in this area there are 42,000 people and they can only produce 15 cards in 4 hours, we don't know.
No, thank you, Chairperson. We just wanted to indicate that we are on the ground. Indeed, the minister is on the ground, and these are the challenges that are beyond our control. But with our engagement, continuous engagement with Postbank, I'm sure we'll overcome most of them, as they've already indicated that they are already started to intervene in some of the challenges. I want to pause the Chairperson and hand over to the EM to deal with the SRT. That's all about the card replacement. Thank you for the opportunity. Over to you, Mr.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nklankoti. Mr. Van Vrede.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. I'm not sure who's controlling this. Are you, Clive? Thanks. Okay. I've got the wrong presentation. No, it's fine. You can. I'll use this one. My apologies, Chairperson. Just trying to find my slides. Okay, so in terms of the SRD, we thought we'll give you a quick update on the SRD grant, but I'm sure members are also have noticed that there has been a High Court judgment on the SRD grant recently, and might also then have some concerns around what that means and the impact that will have to your constituents in the Western Cape. So it is in terms of numbers, we currently have about 17 million clients that have applied for the SRD grant, of which about just under 1.3 are from the Western Cape, which is about 7% of the total population base. If one just looks at the gender split between that across the country, it's a 54% female, 46% male. In the Western Cape, it's slightly more females, 56% females, 44% males. And then, as you may be aware as well, that this grant does go to non-citizens as well. So it also gets paid to refugees, asylum seekers, special permit holders. A small amount, 14,000 people in total, of which Western Cape has about 11% of that. Gauteng has the biggest proportion, followed by the Western Cape and the Northwest after that. In terms of, and apology for this, I didn't divide the slides into your provincial breakdown, but it's going to be roughly the same when one just looks at the age distribution of the grant. It's roughly 60 to say about 62% of the grant mainly goes to youth, up to say between the ages of 18 and 20 and 35. And then if one just looks at the levels of education, about 37% of the beneficiaries across the country report to have at least a grade 10 level education. That's slightly higher in the Western Cape at 47%, with some beneficiaries applying for the grant also purporting to have tertiary qualifications at about 5.5% in the Western Cape. That's a little bit lower at 4%. So in terms of the court case in 2020, I think it was 2023, the Institute for Economic Justice and a civil society organization called #PayTheGrants challenged the Minister of Social Development, the South African Social Security Agency, and the Minister of Finance on various clauses within the regulations for the SRD grant. I'm not going to go through the clauses, but just to give you a summary of basically what their challenge was about. So one of the aspects of the SRD grant is that it's done only online. And again, this was a grant that was uh, had to be rolled out to almost half of your population. If you look at your child support grant and your old age grant and some of the other grants, they go to the under 18s and above 60s, which is less than half of your population. When you look at your working age population, 18 to 56, you've got a much larger pool of your population. If you consider those other grants, they were rolled out over decades, whereas this grant needed to be rolled out during COVID period, overnight, within months. COVID period, trying to sustain it. And the only way the agency had the resources and capacity to do that was to limit it to online. Because if we had 17 million people, we have capacity to deal with about 1.8 million people across the country per year. If we had 17 million people coming to our offices in 1 year, you can imagine the whole social grant system would collapse. So that was one of the main reasons why it was done online. So the challenge here then is from the applicant's side was that this is unconstitutional and unfair to the applicants for the SRD grant. They also had challenges with the definition of income, which was made. If the reason why the definition of income was made extremely broad was again for quick and speedy rollout of the grant. If you look at a normal social grant application, there's 9 clauses defining what income means, which means someone has to physically sit with you, comb through your bank statements. And it's almost 50 minutes, 50 to an hour with one person just to figure out what their income is. The reason why the SRD grant was made very broad clause for income was so that it could be processed digitally and within, well, digitally it happens almost instantaneously. So then you could administer a grant to millions of people. The other one was that we asked unlawful questions. So for example, that education stats I gave you, that's one of the questions that was deemed unlawful. We also asked people like, how do they earn a living? Do they work? Have they ever worked? Basic stuff that's SA asks when they do surveys. That applicants deem that it's unnecessary to ask those questions during an application for SRD, although it does provide useful stats to government of the beneficiaries of the grant. And then it was also found that the bank verification means that we used, it's linked to the income as it's just too broad. There's also challenges with the various databases we use. For example, we use SARS database, Home Affairs, UIF, etc. And these databases do have the inherent flaws in them, but the court also found then that these databases, government knows that they are flawed, and government should not be using them to assess a grant. And another aspect was that if someone wanted to appeal the grant, so if you got declined and you want to appeal, you're not allowed to introduce new evidence. Now, that's just a standard practice of law. Even when you appeal a judgment in court, you're not allowed to bring new evidence to the court. But here the court found the other way, that people should introduce new evidence on appeals, which would then make, because the moment you introduce new evidence, you're actually bringing a new application. So you should go back to the application stage as opposed to appealing. And then, sorry, so that I'll speed up a bit, Chair. And then other aspects, the grant value hasn't increased over time, largely due to budget constraints. The means test has been stagnant as well. All of that is due to financial considerations. And yeah, so those were the main things that were in the applicant's case. Unfortunately, the court found in favor of the applicants on every ground. So the whole grant, everything was declared unconstitutional, which then puts us in a very difficult position as a department, as SASSA, to be able to continue to implement the grant. However, a decision was taken by both the Minister of Social Development and the Minister of Finance to appeal the decision of the court um, uh, on the same sort of merits that I've explained as I was going through it, and that the court has granted the leave to appeal, and currently arguments are being filed to the courts. So that does then place the judgment in suspension until the appeal is heard. This is something that I believe will go all the way to the Constitutional Court. The moment the High Court made a judgment that it's unconstitutional, even if we didn't appeal the judgment, the applicants would still have to approach the applicants would still have to approach the Constitutional Court to confirm the constitutionality of the judgment. So this is something that will probably take another year or two. Even if we lost the appeal or won the appeal, both either the applicants or the respondents will eventually go to the Constitutional Court until the Constitutional Court then rules on this. And so that's essentially where we are now, Chair. The system remains in place. I believe we're not yet quite sure. The Minister of Finance hasn't delivered his budget speech yet, so we still have to determine whether this grant will continue in the new year or not. But that's where we are at the moment, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Van Vrede. And that covers one of my questions that was going to come in terms of whether there's going to be a continuation and also perhaps an increase in the grant amount as well. Honorable members, we are going to open for questions to SASSA. Can we try to condense our questions, say, in totality for 10 to 15 minutes so that, as per my ruling, we can also provide an opportunity to the members of the community that are in attendance. Mr. Nlankosi, perhaps just from my side. And I'm going to be frank, sir. I'm going to be honest. I'm sure every member here today has been confronted by the issue. As I said, we work within the communities. We hear this on a daily basis. We are required to assist on a daily basis. So there is obviously a legislative responsibility. Let us get that out in the clear. I don't think anyone present here today can stand in isolation and saying, this is not my issue anymore. Because by law and by duty, you have a responsibility towards the beneficiaries of this country. So my question to you would be, and I'm thankful that the Honorable National Minister has visited the sites in the Western Cape. And I'm sure beneficiaries present here today can tell you what the Minister has seen, they have experienced. What the Minister has seen, this committee has experienced. We've done oversight on exactly those sites, as you've mentioned there. And that is what emanated from our very first engagement, because we anticipated the issues when it comes to SASSA. When you saw that those sites were not adequately resourced, you talked about data being provided to Postbank. What was the intervention or what was the guidance in terms of steering Postbank in the right direction to say this is, for example, whichever site in the province, we've provided you with the data, Postbank. What is your role in assisting in making sure when you saw that there weren't enough staff, there wasn't enough sites identified, given the legislative responsibility placed upon SASSA, what was your intervention at that stage in that regard? That would be my one question. I'm happy to hear that you spoke about the cooperation with councillors in the local communities. And I'm also very happy for you to confirm this morning in terms of visiting the SASSA office in Beaufort last week. That is exactly what the office manager committed to. And thank you so much to him and your office for actually now setting some dates in order to get to those far off areas. That is the other thing. there was a notice that said that you do not support these outreaches that is either by councillors or members of the community, because there were members of the community that were mobilizing as well. There were councillors currently still mobilizing. Are you in support? Are you not in support? I could hear from what you conveyed to the committee, that that is a process that is approved by your office for obvious reasons. Of course, there have to be proper monitoring and control. I can understand that, but that message is just a bit conflicting. I think I'm gonna stop there. I still have a few questions, but I'm gonna afford members the opportunity as well, and I also want to abide by the ruling of providing opportunity to guests as well. Honorable members, I see Member Kasim. Member Kasim, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I just want to check, if I'm not mistaken, I know that previously beneficiaries could take loans out on SASSA. So I just wanted to check with the new card, are they still able to do that? Because I know that a lot of these elderly people and even the adults as well, I'm sorry, the youth as well, they use these loans for purposes of food, transport, and even funeral expenses as well. So I just wanted to check, does the new card allow them to do that as well? And then secondly, I just wanted to check in terms of progress when it comes to fraud, even within the application process. What progress has SASSA made in terms of fraudulent applications that are being made, and then also in terms of corruption and fraud by its own staff members as well? Thank you.
Member Kasim, can I perhaps just also ask, obviously I can imagine there's now also an influx of applications that needs to be captured. Are your offices capacitated to deal with that influx, meaning that those new details will be captured on the system, and beneficiaries will obviously not be in the risk of not receiving the grants? If you can perhaps just give us that reassurance. And then I'm going to recognize Member Stevens.
Member Kasim asked the one question. I just want to ask another question. What systems are in place to detect and prevent fraudulent grant applications, such as the 370s, it used to be the 350s, grants from students that has recently been identified, the fraud on that? And how many cases of grant fraud have been identified in the Western Cape in the past year, and what actions have been taken? Thank you.
Thank you very much, members. I do not see Member Boyson.
Chairperson, I might be out of track, but it's just something that I need to drop for in future with collaboration with all of us in here, with SEPs in future. We need to deal with loan sharks that keeps these cards. Sometimes we report it and nothing happens. But it's not for today, but now that we're in a new system, let's have new measures to protect the elderly as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Boyson. That is actually something that we spoke to on another level, and the response from SAPS were quite shocking, but we can definitely do a resolution in that regard to have that conversation in committee. In the absence of any other member, I do not see any hands online as well. I'm going to ask SASSA to please respond, and then I'm going to provide an opportunity to members of the public to ask a question.
Thank you, Chair. I will just answer some, and then my colleagues will cover some, and I will request Mr. Brenton to cover the 370 issue question. First, Chairperson, let me apologize if I came across as someone who's shifting the blame to Postbank. That's not. We take responsibility of our clients. That's why we put the plan in place so that we don't outsource what's ours, because beneficiaries are SASSA beneficiaries. So if that maybe was the interpretation, I want to apologize. That's not what I meant. You are quite right, ma'am. First of all, as I indicated, that we came together as regional executive managers for all 9 regions to discuss what is it that we can do to make sure that this process is receiving attention and it goes without any glitch. We put a plan together that I spoke about. We presented it to EXCO, and the EXCO approved it, and then it was taken to be presented to the portfolio committee, and then we came for implementation. Now, if maybe we were all listening, some of the issues that Postbank presented, for example, they're starting to recruit, they're extending sites, they're doing this and that. It is because of us engaging them to say, yes, you have sites, but we think we will need more sites there. Yes, you may have a site there, but it's not working properly. Make sure that you improve the system, you put additional stuff. Some of the things come as we address them as we go. And I indicated earlier on that we have constant communication on a weekly basis. We may not get all the things because not suppose or Postbank, also they also have their own challenges. We also have our own, but we try not to make our challenges being a stumbling block. And what we're looking for is to make sure that by the time the doomsday come, the 20th of March, every beneficiary has been migrated to the new card or to the alternative payment method. So that's what I do. And the question, Chairperson, maybe say, what did we do? I think maybe it might be, with respect to, be premature because we are still not yet in the day. We are really trying to make sure that we don't ask ourselves that question at the day. We should have done this. So we are trying our level best to really interact with our Postbank. Members of the community support. Yes, ma'am, we do support the members of the community assisting us, but we also want, because we've got a very good relationship with most of the councillors and the stakeholders, but there are people who take chance and pretend to be councillors when they are not, and then they say they are working with SASSA. And if something goes wrong there, we are saying, the person said that I was with the councillor Ntlangoti in Ward 76, and then they took my man, there was SASSA staff. We go to Ward 76, there's no councillor Ntlangoti. We saw videos where we are not participating. So I said that must come to my office so that first we check, do we know the councillor? Yes, we know the councillor. Do we have our staff members there? Yes, we have our staff members. So it's just because of that, not to say we want to censor the councillors. Yes. Okay. And then to Honorable Kasim, even the previous card, let me first say that all SASSA cards, including our cards, the loan sharks, they take them. It is between the card owner and the loan shark. But of course, I'm not a card specialist. The Postbank is there, but it is a battle that we do not know how we're going to win, because beneficiaries voluntarily go to the loan sharks, and it is correctly said that the law enforcement disappoint us many times. Because some of the loan sharks, they work with law enforcement, or some of them you just don't get the response. We have confiscated a number of cards. In the cases, some don't go anywhere, but in some cases, we really get some kind of prosecution and even conviction. So it depends on the type of case. In terms of fraud, SASSA has got a dedicated unit that deals with fraud and corruption. And in the Western Cape, I can say that we did a serious operation in Mamasburg, where we arrested one of our members working with the doctor, because we go to Mamasburg, the whole community had one sickness. They were all deaf. So the doctor was just issuing deaf. So they drew our attention, and then we engaged law enforcement. There was investigation, intelligence-driven investigation. We pounced down, and then we arrested. There was conviction. We dismissed the stuff. So where it's just that sometimes the wheels of justice take long. We've got a lot of cases that are with the folks. Some of them are with us internally. So we try, but some of the things fall between the cracks. I want to oh yes, the issue of the capacity statement. As I indicated, Chairperson, that we are trying to make sure that by the time this card thing dies down, we are not left with a backlog of applications that we must take care. So we are trying to kill two birds with one stone. If I can indicate is that our application process in terms of our targets in the operational plan, we're saying that the application must be completed within 21 days. We went down to 7 days, but most of our applications are completed in 1 day. So maybe if a beneficiary does not have all the documents and they are maybe certain, but we are trying to say even if you are not directed 1 day, we do it 1 day. The process may take slow because the process that we use to deal with the card replacement, we take from the resources that we have. So we deplete from offices. But yes, we will continue to do both and there won't be any big challenges after post this one. Can I request the colleagues to add to Mr. Brenton on the first event?
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson. I think with the issue of loan sharks, so first of all, just to be clear on the postbank card, there's no deductions. You can't buy airtime, you can't buy electricity. No deductions can go off that card. So it is generally a more secure card because we've saw even with the some of the banks or some of the micro lenders, they tend to also do a lot of, and you'll be aware of the Black Sash a couple of years ago with unauthorized debit orders, etc. That system is largely, that challenge is largely being cleaned out through the use of the old SASSA Gold Card, and the Black Card will be the same, but that then forces people to the loan sharks because, and then one has to try and find where's the better balance. The micro lenders who are regulated, the banks who are regulated versus the loan sharks who are unregulated. Because at the end, when people need money, they will go where they can get the money. So that is something we need to rethink together with the Post Bank going forward as well. And don't want to put Mr. Shangoti on the spot, but I think SASSA will definitely commit to working with SAPS and any law enforcement agency and any task team. We used to be very agile in the past, especially around loan sharks, and that's something we need to strengthen again in cooperation with other law enforcement agencies to try and clamp down on that. With fraud and corruption, I'm going to touch on two elements. So if you look at fraud, if you look at our audit reports from, say, 2022, let's start with public servants. You'll find that the AG issued 150,000 public servants receiving social grants. If you look at last year's audit report, that was like 100, 150. That has come down significantly. Same with GEPF. That has also been, I think it was about 40,000 or so, and that was also 100, just over 100. So those two databases, the public servants, I think we've cleaned that up quite significantly. Chairperson, you must also note that when we did that, a lot of your constituents were unhappy. So there was huge pushback as well by older persons, by public servants saying we're targeting them, etc. But it's something we had to do. We're going to do it in the coming financial year with private sector individuals by using the same system we use for the SRD where we check bank accounts. We're going to be then running our data through the data with all the banks that cooperate with us. So we're going to get a huge number of people in the course of the next, well, I'm predicting huge, but one obviously doesn't know, but it'll probably be similar to what we've seen in the civil servants or even a little bit larger because it's a larger pool of people. So that will also create a little bit of noise. I'm just alerting you, and it'll cause a bit of a stir, but these are all the things we need to do to try and reduce fraud within the system. With the issue of the students, so what they've highlighted was identity theft. So a lot of, and this is something we've picked up with our online systems. In fact, with our main social grants online systems, we had to Before what we saw on the SRD even went into there, we had to shut a certain part of that system down to make sure we introduce biometric identification, especially when people wanted to change their bank account details. Because we realized that people, through harvesting people's personal details, they go and open bank accounts. So someone would open a bank account in my name, but that's not me, and then go and change the banking details of say my application. Say I was a grant beneficiary, they then change that to their bank, which they opened in my name. And some banks do have flawed FICA processes, etc., or not as stringent FICA processes, which does allow for that. So we had to then introduce biometric identification on almost all of our online transactions. We've done it with our SRDs. You can't change a method of payment. You can't change from one bank to another without doing a biometric identification. And there's a bunch of applicants we also identified as potentially fraudulent, but because it's online, you don't know until you have a physical verification of the, not physical, a digital verification of the person. So we have about 2.9 million people of that 17 million who we just suspended because we require them to do some form of biometric identification before they can continue receiving the grant. Thanks. I think that covers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Van Vrede. So at the back with the white shirt, did you have your hand up? You have a contribution to make?
Yes, Chairperson, thanks. My name is Ananias Har. I just want to confirm that in terms of processing of a request for bank payments, in case clients want to switch from one bank to the next or from decides to choose to move from either post bank to another bank, we have we've activated an overtime process for such request that officials in the whole Western Cape so that they can process as much as possible before the deadline. Because if you can go beyond the deadline, they will be affected. But we are happy that our counterpart Post Bank has a cutlass, an alternative point. But for now, we have activated that in our offices to process all requests made to our offices. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Langoti also mentioned about the data being provided in terms of bedridden beneficiaries. Are you satisfied, sir, that that component is also receiving the necessary attention as we speak?
Chairperson, we have a commitment from Postbank, and that they've also indicated to us, they send out their SOP as to how they plan to start now getting to the people that have been indicated as people who requested to be home visited. So we are comfortable that they will get there. We have all the reasons to believe that.
Thank you very much. And then, Mr. Van Vrede, before I let you go, the eKYC system has been down for quite some time. Now, your client, what was the reason for that, and what is the impact on SRD applicants or beneficiaries?
Yes, Honorable Chairperson, we ran into procurement difficulties with the SRD system. Our previous service provider left us, who was providing that contract came to an end, and we needed to then renew the contract. Normally, when something comes to an end, you just extend the previous contract for a little bit, but the service provider wasn't willing to continue providing the service to us, which led us to having that gap period in between. The service is now up and running, and we've accumulated backlogs of, I think it was about 14,000 cases. I just have to double check that number. But the moment the service came up, it came up on Friday. Monday, it's in full swing, and we've sent those messages out to all of those clients so that they can now do their the links for them to do their verifications.
Can I perhaps just ask, what is the impact thereof? Is there a risk that some of the beneficiaries will not be receiving their grants?
So So there's three categories of beneficiaries that were impacted. The biggest group of them were the ones that were suspected of fraud. So yes, they were in a suspension status, and that suspension status only gets lifted after they complete the EKYC. If they successfully complete the EKYC, they'll get the full back pay of everything that they were entitled to. The other two groups are smaller in number, but for us, they were the big ones we were worried about the most, is those that want to change the cell phone numbers, which means if those people couldn't access the portal. So if you had to change your cell phone number and you didn't have your old cell phone number, because you need a one-time PIN to your cell phone number to access the portal to see whether or not to just check on your status. So they were also impacted. And then those that wanted to change from to another bank. So you also have to do the EKYC process if you want to change from this bank to another bank. They would have still been paid in their old bank account. It's just the payment change to then the system change to the new bank account would have been then delayed because of the EKYC system being down for that month and a half.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, can I then conclude for questions for members? Member Stevens?
One more question. This is not for Post Bank. How does SASSA plan to address the long queues and staff shortages at all centres in the Western Cape?
How is SASSA going to address the long queues and staff shortages in the Western Cape? What is your plan of action?
Well,
The plan of action, yes.
I can only speak on reducing queues, but the staff shortage, maybe it's a national competence because we're dependent on the availability of budget. Yes, ma'am, we have implemented a number of interventions in trying to reduce queues. One of the things that first of all, we needed to know what causes the queues in the Western Cape. And you can go to any SASSA official who say that the queue is caused mostly by the applicants for the disability grant because they go back and forth. We are the highest in terms of people coming to apply for disability grant, temporary disability grant. We've seen that most of the disability grant applicants, they are declined. 24% of them, they're declined every time they come, which tells us that if they don't come to the office, they would not have caused any queues. So what we are trying to do now, engaging the Department of Health, is to have what we used to call it doctor-initiated assessment, but now we say health practitioners initiated assessment, where they will first go, as they will go to a normal doctor, to a normal clinic to say, when I'm sick, let me also check if I can apply for grant. And then they are told right there to say, you don't have to go to SASSA because you don't qualify. Instead of going to SASSA, stand on the queue, and then only to be told that, but you don't qualify. That's one. And then secondly, we are now trying to make sure that the online application for the disability grant is something that we promote so that clients start not to come to the office because it is not necessary. But with that, we also have short-term interventions like overtime. Time and again, when there is savings, we will approach head office and then they give us overtime that extend hours for us to really process more applications than normal. I now currently in negotiations with staff and unions to say, because we've seen that overtime is working, how about maybe piloting in the metro where we have high influx, the extension of hours. We're going to have staff starting early and then others finishing late. Well, it's something that we cannot just implement because there are labor issues implicated there. So we just want to pilot so that if we see that we get a return of investment on that, then we invest on that one. So we also now try to also encourage our clients to use a normal online application especially the young ones who don't have to come to the office. So there are a number of interventions that we can come here and then, like we did last time, to say that this is what we're trying to do in terms of, so that by the time we get money to add staff, at least we've done half the work. Maybe I can stop there for now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Langoti. I think we can agree we still have a way to go. And as we said earlier, the date of 20 March is imprinted, I'm sure, in a lot of beneficiaries' mind in the Western Cape, but also across the country. So we will certainly, as we have indicated to Postbank, we will certainly also extend a further invite to you as well to update this committee on the status going forward. At this point, I am going to ask if that side there's a hand, ma'am. Please go ahead. Just again for the record.
Sorry, Chairperson.
Member Kasim. My apologies, ma'am. Apologies, member. Please proceed.
Chairperson, thank you. I received your question with regards to fraud within SASSA and staff as well. But I think I was trying to get the seriousness of, just to get an indication of how many staff members in SASSA itself are involved in fraud. So I just wanted to check, do you have like a report as to, even if it's 100 cases, 50 cases, just give an actual number as to how many has been identified while making the fraudulent applications or approving the fraudulent applications with the resources of SASSA? And then out of that, if it's 100, how many has been dismissed? If there was accusations, are they still placed in SASSA offices, or have they been removed? I just wanted a simple response like that, if possible, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, member. And if the detailed information is not available, we can certainly ask for it. But you may answer, Mr. Nklongoti.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Because this is quite a serious matter, I wouldn't like to speculate and then just say it's X number of staff that we have, because we actually do have people that we are reported to us that they are involved in them. The problem with us pursuing cases like that, you get anonymous report, and then you do not get people who come to say, let us, we're here, I reported the case, now I want to testify. And then the cases die natural death. But from time to time, we get from whistleblowers, from people from outside, we always get cases we investigate, and some of them don't get it as a result of lack of services, or sort of evidence. But where we are, that's why I made an example of Mama Spirit, that where we really get information, we will make sure that where there is evidence, we follow it up as much as we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Hi, everyone. Chairperson and the Parliament. My name is Nomaliti Kucha from Kukuletu, but I'm also here to represent the surrounding areas as well. So I heard the SASSA management talking about having arrangement with ward councillors and some of the community members. So I don't know if this maybe might help, because we are the ones in the community who understands exactly how it affects the community level, in the street level. So I was thinking if maybe we can have a structure where now the ward councillor does have a database of the stakeholders. In that way, maybe the information can be communicated easily to the aerial committees, because that is how we operate, so that it goes straight to the streets. In that way, there is no fraud, because now when, for instance, myself, my ward councillor knows me, the street committee people, the community trust us, because we work every time in daily basis, not only because of these SASSA issues, there's lots of issues in the community. So that trust and the deliveries that we are doing, volunteering there, I think it brings a weight of understanding exactly when we come here to these engagements. It's because we want to hear exactly from the Parliament and from the SASSA and Post Bank, what is it exactly that we are missing as a community so that we link our people to get their SASSA cards directly and without no miscommunications. And also another option that I was thinking, now I'm sitting here because we can see it's becoming an issue. It affects the old age people. It affects the disability level, because I'm not hearing also here that how are the disabled people or physical challenged people going to get their SASSA cards with traveling to the mall, or what are the arrangements there? So those are the things that I just want the whole everyone to be aware that those issues are the issues that affects them even physically, because they get stressed easily also, and also that is why we're trying to reduce the fraud, because by asking a neighbor's child to register an old age person online, that also does have its own negative impacts that obviously comes back now. I remember with my grandmother, because before she passed away, she used to hate technology, because what happened was that someone was paying electricity from her. I don't know how did it happen, but when they found out that the person was paying electricity from her SASSA card, but we don't know how it happened. But I'm trying to raise up that our children or the youth, the technology is so advanced so much that they do have a way of taking money from the old age people. So I think the VDs, because when we vote, we do have EVDs that we like, for instance, we know that Full Gospel is the VD for maybe 5 or 6 streets in the community where people go there and vote there. So it's easier again to reach to street level people, so that people know that on 2 days mentioning the outreach people, that is how another way of doing the outreach with USASA and Post Bank, obviously engaging with law enforcement for security as well. So those are the things that I think that it will make the process easier, and also meeting the deadline of that March, because everyone now, instead of borrowing money to go to the mall, to go somewhere, the SASSA and the Post Bank will come to the community, because that is why we are coming here to say we want SASSA and Post Bank or banks or whoever that is involved to come to the people in the community where they are staying, not to have them borrowing money from Machonisa to go there to stand long queues and come back the next day again. It's like it's a delay. And then also I want to raise an issue of Westenberg. Why I'm raising it, I'm not staying there, but we do have our comrades that are staying on that side. We've witnessed on our WhatsApp that they're staying in long lines because there is no there's no availability of USPA that is closer. So it's the same process that we are trying to say it needs to come to the community on the street level, or any other structure that is better than the way now that it's happening, to avoid miscommunication and the fraud. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Mr. Ngozi, I think the engagement is around stakeholder involvement, mobilization efforts, and also monitoring and safeguarding the system against fraud. If you can perhaps just prepare for that or assign someone to that question. And ma'am, you and the gentleman at the back. Yes, you may.
My name is Noe. I'm from Kukuletu. Greetings, Chair, and your committee. Special greeting to my former health MEC, Professor Mbombo. We miss you in the health sector. I think I'm not going to be long. A lot has been said. What I'm grateful of is that the extension of the deadline. Because if you check now the tools that we have, we will miss a lot of people that are facing poverty. But really, I'm grateful that it has been extended. But what I want to emphasize that USASA not be visible when there is changing of cards only. We need you guys. We really need you. There are a lot of services that we are rendered that community don't even know. When I hear from manager Ekukuletu that even if your child don't have a birth certificate, it's something that's supposed that child get before, Meanwhile, she's busy or he's busy applying for a birth certificate. So we need you, not your visibility only. There's a changing of cards or there's going to be a voting. We need your visibility in our community. Yeah. Another thing in terms of outreach, I hear that you first check your data before you can come to the certain area. You understand? I think, yes, it's good to check your data, but at the end of the day, we know that each right goes with the responsibilities. But our community needs education about these whole things. As my colleague has spoken about into technology that is beating our seniors. You understand? I'm glad that you mentioned that you're going to do a home visit. When you do home visit, check your safety also. You know, we need services, but at the end of the day, check your safety because these departments are married together. If you're talking about SASA, talk about health, because now you've mentioned that health system in terms of people that are physical challenge, there are things that need to be signed at the clinic and all that. But it's good that even when we have this standing committee, there's a representative from health as we are coming direct from clinics. Another thing that I want to emphasize, in terms of old age homes, today our seniors have been exposed to, they are established their own clubs. It will be proper in terms of visibility to, even if you go once a month and visit those clubs and talk about this issue, because it's not nice when you see them crying at the mall. I was there even last week when the other old lady was crying, was sent to Claremont Post Bank. I said, no ways, this woman don't even have the money to go to Claremont. You are here as Post Bank, you're supposed to help her here. And another issue that I've picked up last week when I was doing the supervision of these things, when people are turned back, well, those people that have e-green IDs, old IDs, you know, that woman was sent back because the ID was stipulated with staplers and all that. You know, she's supposed to go to do affidavit and all this. But when she went to a PRO to check her, she was helped. So your services that you render to a community must be uniform. If person can be helping PRO, why she was not helping Kukuletu? You understand? But that's all from my side. But what I want to emphasize, your work that you're doing, your visibility, the education that we need. Yeah.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Gentleman at the back.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Good day, honorable members, members of the public. Again, thank you for the platform. I was observing and I heard a lot of things from both Post Bank and the gentleman over there. And, you know, being in the communities every day, we encounter different challenges. But I must say, for the past few weeks, this one has been one of the biggest ones. Apologies. This one has been one of the main ones that has been bothering us. And I just want to make mention that Postbank, with the systems and how they've been operating, is not doing us justice. I must be honest with you guys. It's not doing our community justice. I'm in Mitchell's Plain. I'm based in Mitchell's Plain. We have a population of more than 1 million people, probably close to 2 million people. At the moment, we only have, I'm not sure, I heard rumors of Pick n Pay also offering the services now, but at the moment, we only had Boxer Superstore in Town Center. Now, if you know Town Center, you will know that Town Center is infiltrated with a lot of wrong activities, such as gang violence, such as robberies, such as drug abuse happening every single day. I've known of elderly people that stood up 4 o'clock in the morning to stand in that line for Postbank, just to be told, just for them to tell the lady at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock that you will not be helped. Crying, having a similar issue to what the lady has mentioned here. Um, they are saying that they're only issuing 100 tickets, so they will only be helping that. When I went to them, the lady told me that they're not even sure if they will be able to assist even those at the 100, the 100 tickets that they've issued. Another concern I have is I hear that you guys are understaffed. Clearly, there's not enough staff. We had a situation at Boxer Mitchell's Plain Town Center where your staff was not held gunpoint. Luckily, we were alerted quick and we could deal with the situation quick. But what security are you putting in place for your employees? Because we do know the issue of scamming and cards being duplicated, and there's a lot of things that is happening, and that happened there. And the next day, two of your staff didn't return, and then we were only left with two of them left at Mitchell's Plain Town Center with 500 people standing outside daily. Some of them having traveled the whole week and still not helped. Hence the reason I'm saying that Postbank is not doing us justice, and like I don't feel like social development even is coming up with proper solutions. I note that there's quite a number of things that was highlighted in terms of what you guys feel is your concerns and your challenges. Now, if you know that is your challenges, how far have you gotten with the solutions? I mean, I've heard brilliant initiatives coming up from the community itself here, with a lady mentioning exactly what she mentioned, and I didn't hear that unfortunately from anyone else, but I also note that you do acknowledge that there is challenges, but problem that we have is with the solutions. The lady in front of me mentioned with regards to people with disability and even those that are in bedridden. How are we going to do them justice if we can't even do justice to the ones that are coming out to them to come and get their cards? And then also, we are in 2025. How is it possible that we still have systems that is down for 2 hours, 3 hours? Because that is what we encounter in Mitchell's Plain. We literally in 2025, we're heading in a new era of technology, and we still have systems that is down. Surely somewhere we need to improve, or it's been done deliberately. I cannot say it's, but just the allegation that has been made. And then I also want to mention that I've heard, maybe you must just correct me if I'm wrong, that I've heard that you guys are offering chairs and water to elderly. That's not happening. That is not true. It's not a good thing to come here and mislead the house to say that the elderly is being given chairs and water, because that is not the reality. I know of personally elderly coming up to our office because we are based in town center, coming up to our office for water, having to drink the medication, standing in the sun, not having chairs. We had to literally take down chairs. And if you want proof, we have it all documented on our phone. We are very well known for exposing, departments that is not operating, but coming to do beautiful presentations with statistics. That is not the reality for us that is living in our communities. And then the last part is, um, it's difficult to get through to Postbank. I've personally tried to contact the call center. The employees that is there can never give you a proper line of communication when they are asked, who do we speak to? It's like they never know who do we speak to. They gave me a number to contact the call center. Couldn't get through to the call center. Not at all. If you think I'm lying, we can sit here now and we can make a call and see if we'll come through to them. We won't. Trust me, we won't. Now, there's a lot of young people that is trying to help the grandmothers and mothers that's seeking for solutions to make things easier, but it's just not happening for them. So there's quite a number of concerns that is being raised, and I'm hoping that we can really come up with some sort of solution that will really bring us justice to our community, and especially our elderly people. We need to be solution driven, especially to those that are in the departments, the politicians that's got the powers to motivate and put pressure on these departments. I ask and I urge you guys, please, 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 we need to sort this out. The 20th is around the corner. People are going to get strokes and they're going to get heart attacks because they need to pay water, they need to buy food. There's a lot of things that comes attached to this. So I would really plead to the Department of Social Development, please bring your part and hold Postbank accountable. Hold them accountable. And Postbank, please, if there's not any assistance, please reach out to the relevant departments so that you guys can serve the people the way you should. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your contribution, sir.
Thank you so much, Chair.
My name is Leslie Sylvester, and I'm from the Heideveld cluster. For Postbank, according to your presentation, you said that you had started this process since last year. But what I cannot find, to me, it's very ironic because since last year, but in January, the group chats were busy buzzing about this changing of the gold card to the black card. So what was the time frame for Postbank to say a deadline end of February? I mean, it wasn't even communicated to our community. So there was no engagement with the community at all, to my knowledge. Secondly, then a date was extended. And I asked this question, our community has already suffered from all these changes in their whole lifetime. And now to sit again with issues like this, especially the elder and the senior people that really battle to understand how does this processes works. So I'm not happy with Postbank at all because my sentiment is that there was no engagement. And I feel that the two parties, SASSA and Postbank, must really work together with stakeholders. There's NGOs that would love to support you guys and be proactive. We are all here for the same purpose and for the same thing. So people must speak to one another. Yeah. I mean, you sit on top there, I sit down at the bottom, and I don't have a conversation with you. And yeah, I will leave Postbank. I will go back to SASSA. SASSA, I have been in the mall in February. I'm also a senior. So I've been in the mall and I've noticed how our people is confused. Where and what and how. This one comes up to me and says, you know, where must I go? I need to change my car, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't, you know, well informed or educated about the processes and where and what and how. And so I immediately got on the phone. I phoned my counselor. That was in the middle of February. And up till today, my counselor never came back to me because I suggested why in these areas are so far out for our people and why don't they have a satellite office so that they can be educated or work or change their cards from gold to the black card. Also, when I've taken people myself to SASSA's office. Now, the whole confusing about SASSA, the acting manager says that you're short staff. I can understand that, but there's so many people out there looking for jobs and people that's highly educated that don't have work. Recruit these people. I don't know if there's a budget for you people or not, but you must speak. You must communicate with the president as well. The other thing that I'm very unhappy is that how they treat our people in the queues. It's appalling because people stand in the queue from 6 o'clock. You know that story, it's an old story. So they stand and they leave the queues because if it's a hot day, there's no shelter for shade for them. So it's a hot day, they stand in the shade. So as the line goes, then they rush out from where they are, where they're sitting in the shade to get into the queue. And then they were reprimanded by the security guard. Now, the security guard, I don't know who employs them, or is it a self organization that been asked to do the service?
but they don't have any respect. They don't have actually knowledge of how the processes work. I don't know if the supervisors tell them what to say, and it's not coming from your SASSA officials. I've been for 4 hours in the queue with these people. And I mean, really, I am a diabetic too. I can't stand in the sun the whole day. But anyway, they try to help, but the way they do it is not with respect and dignity. And that is so key because we lived our life for our country up till today. We still do more.
Mr. Sylvester.
Yeah, the last point. So I would appreciate, we must look at that. I also would like to ask, yeah, they must work out a system where we can accommodate our people in a respectful manner and all that. And my last question is, how can you assure us that all our people will get paid? Well, today is the 4th. I don't know. It's going to be chaos. And going forward, and deadline on the 20th of March. And the last one is, so you mentioned about the councillors, the stakeholders, the NGOs. In 2015, we had meeting on a monthly or quarterly meetings. And it helped tremendously because we got information to share with our community. And like Sir says, that you also had a chance to speak in church to educate our people. And I would like to see that that comes back so that, and the councillors is hopeless. You know, so I do thank you for listening to me, and I thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sylvester. I'm sure the entities can only respond to those questions and answer, or questions and comments relevant to them and not otherwise. I think the essence of it all comes down to community engagement, community education, sound communication, and stakeholder involvement. I'm going to provide you an opportunity, sir, and I'm also going to provide Postbank an opportunity. Say 5 minutes maximum to round up, sum up, and to respond, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think you have covered well that everything that we had is about us strengthening our stakeholder engagement and also getting involved with the community more than what we're doing. And I want to assure the lady from Kukuletu that Kukuletu is one area where we have a very good working relationship with the community, different structures of the community. We had 2 successful outreach programs in the past week because of the interaction with the community. But I will speak to the office manager so that she makes sure that all the community leaders, the community stakeholders are also being engaged. Because I do know I will find the ladies' organization and also the name so that she can make contact with her. If I apologize if she was left out. In terms of the disabled people, as I indicated, that we try to provide wheelchairs where we can on the queues. We try to prioritize them to be service first, but those that are unable even to come to the office, they have an opportunity to request for a home visit. We look into that. And then lastly, now I'm going to allow my colleague to come in. The MOP outreach that we're currently embarking on are not the only outreaches, and then they are not the first ones. We have our scheduled ICROP where we go elsewhere in the province where we don't have footprints, taking people to taking services to the people. Every year we've got planned outreaches that we go in every corner of the province, so that where we don't have offices, at least we go there and service people. We will continue after it started. For now, we prioritize this, but we'll continue after the 20th and have our outreach program. Nondomiso, can you just answer the other ones that I may have? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, sir.
My name is Nondomiso Sekonyela. I think mostly it was comments for consideration by SASSA, especially resuscitating the stakeholder collaborations that we used to have in the past. And also that we should not be only now be visible in the communities, but be visible even before and after this crisis has settled.
Yeah.
I think that was mostly the cry of the communities, and also for us to take note of the treatment of the beneficiaries by our staff, and ensure that security guards don't feature within our processing, the value chain process, but rather our clients be attended to by SASSA officials, not security guards. So we've taken note, and I heard it was the Heideveld area. Not sure if you went to Mitchell's Plain office, but we will make sure that obviously when we come back from here, we'll give a report and a reprimand to the officers, but we will zoom into the areas that were mentioned here and other areas too. I think okay. Yeah, I think the other comments were for our other colleagues to respond to, but we've taken note of that, and we will do some action to address those areas.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ikonyana. Postbank.
No, thank you, Chair, and thank you to the members of the public. I think, Chair, similar to the observation by my SASSA colleague, most were inputs, valuable inputs that we have taken note of. I think there's a Mitchell's plain input, and in the presentation, I think Ruan did go into detail about Mitchell's plan, how he's planning an intervention on it. The stakeholder engagement piece, Chair, we really do appreciate it, and that's an area that I think collaboratively with SASSA, we will take it upon. The issue of the VDs, critical, especially when you take into account, Chair, that at some point there is someone that is home that will need to be assisted, and the VDs and the local structures on the ground are critical for us to reach that person. So we've taken note, Chair, of the inputs, valuable inputs, and we will work on plans of refining our models to incorporate all the inputs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. I think it was indeed a very productive engagement, and I'm so happy to hear that you are willing to come back. And we ask these questions and we make these comments, not because we feel like it, but because it necessitates for us to ask these questions. So in closing, honorable members, officials of both Postbank and SASSA, I think I just want to emphasize the urgency of the collaboration to uphold the dignity and the well-being of our beneficiaries. And today we spoke specifically about the Western Cape, but of beneficiaries across this country. So we would also want to plead from this committee side the value of working together. And I know someone has made the comment of councillors, and I don't think we should generalize the sense, because we could hear that there are councillors that are in constant engagements and they're doing their part on the ground, as other organizations as well. And today we've heard from organizations that said, push our buttons, contact us. We want to help. We want to assist. We want to make sure that this transition runs as smoothly as possible. So I believe that if all hands are on deck, we can actually make this work. We are looking forward to see what transpired towards the 20th of March. We will now obviously as a committee have a look at our committee program to see how fast or how soon we can have both entities back so that we can update the people of the Western Cape, but also effectively play our oversight duty in that regard. Just before I finally close, we had Minister Lund online earlier. Minister, is there any closing remarks from your side?
Uh, Good morning or good afternoon, Chairperson. I firstly just want to say thank you for the committee. I mean, I really think that the Western Cape is blessed to have a committee like this, that across party lines you take hands, you hold myself, my department to account, and you do it for the best interest of the residents of the Western Cape. Also to SASSA and Postbank. I have met with SASSA before, and I have met with the Postbank yesterday. And I also want to say thank you for those honest and robust conversations. I do think sometimes we need to start having these conversations a lot earlier. Even though the two entities do not report to us as DSD in the Western Cape, we do pick up a lot of the queries, and my commitment, like I've given to SASSA and also to Postbank, we are willing to take hands, see where we can partner, see where we can iron out some problems so that we can serve the residents of this province better. So that's all from my side, Chairperson. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Minister Lund. Thank you for attending this meeting, also to your HOD and other departmental officials. Much appreciated. Honorable members and officials. So yeah, let us move forward. Excuse me. Let us move forward, I think, together in the spirit of partnership. Our residents are looking at us with anticipation as to how this process can indeed be a successful one, a smooth one without any hardship and panic, in order for the most vulnerable in society to be able to receive their grants uninterrupted. Thank you so much for your time. This committee appreciate your time. To our guests, community members, community leaders, thank you for taking the time out of your program and traveling all the way to WCPP to attend this meeting. We will obviously also, through our normal communication channels, keep you abreast of our next engagement, and you are most welcome to come again. You will have an opportunity, obviously, after we conclude, to rub shoulders and have a conversation with officials that will be staying behind. Honorable members, thank you so much for your indulgence and your participation as well, and for your support in this matter as well. Our very capable procedural officer, Ms. Namonde Jamte, thank you so much for your support to this committee as well. Just before finally we conclude, members, there are refreshments in the members' lounge. And on that note, and guests as well, yes, you're most welcome to join us. So you will have an opportunity to, perhaps if there's a specific case that you want to bring under the attention, or you need someone's contact number, now is the time for you to do so. Again, much appreciation. Thank you to colleagues online. Thank you to members of the media and other community members that has tuned into this very important meeting this afternoon, or that started this morning. We really do appreciate. Colleagues, that is the end of our meeting. Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Oh, kita lang tong. Kita lang tong.
Jij may boeken wat? Ja. Klaar. Geef klaar dan. Barang kepuat. Kita lanjut di bang ya.